live. Damn it. Did you already go live?
Hello, everybody.
You suck. You should tell me that.
It's 1 o'clock.
Hi, everyone. Well, hopefully people still show up since I scheduled this live for 1 a.m. and not 1 p.m. I'm so annoyed with myself right now that I did that. Oh, hi, Rebecca. We've got a Rebecca Davis on here. That's amazing. One of Cory's other mothers happens to have that same name. Are we on? Come on. I'm not seeing that we are. Oh, we are. Okay. Hi, guys. Oh, we are. Okay. It's like we step away for a week.
Hi, sister.
We step away for a week and then we forget everything that we know how to do. You come on live right when I have to get my daughter from kindergarten. Oh, maybe you can just set us on your dashboard and listen to us while you're driving. I know I put 1 a.m. for this live. Like, what in the world was I thinking? I tried so hard to make sure that I got it right too. Oh my gosh, kick my own butt. Oh, how are you on there? I can't see us on here. I'm trying to find our. Okay, here we go.
Oh, thanks, Scrapping. Just Scrapping.
Oh, yay! Thanks for coming back to Scrapping. My sister loves your page, by the way.
Everybody hear us? We had issues with our mics recording. We recorded a whole session yesterday and then had to re-record it because all we were doing is...
I know, it was so frustrating. We did a whole episode last night on season 2, episode 1, and we went to upload it onto YouTube and no volume. I know, but somebody even said that. They're like, you guys and your audio is just like part of your show now because it's so ridiculous. We try so hard and then it just, I don't know. You can tell we're totally brand new. Oh.
Living in Seattle.
Oh, good. Katie's still a moderator. Yay! So we have Cory's sister Katie on here moderating for us. So she probably will answer some questions if we get too far behind. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I will. She's just Scrapping says, tell your sister to leave me a comment and tell me who she is. So all my family are huge, huge, huge cat lovers. And her page is, she's got a page on cats on Instagram. And so my sister just absolutely loved that. Let's see. I watched the episode that recorded the audio though. Yeah, we never actually uploaded the second episode. We just re-recorded it and never uploaded it because as we were trying to do like the closed captioning, that kind of stuff, it just, nothing was there. And I'm like, did we not have audio this entire time? So we realized it before we uploaded it to YouTube that we had screwed up.
So we're testing everything now. So
yeah,
everything's jumping. It's great.
Somebody says, I just love your channel. Love seeing you both with Pop Psych. Hello from Nevada. Thanks. Yeah, that was a fun interview with him and his wife. I don't think they knew very much about us before we went on the on their episode, and when they found out that we at one point knew Cody and the Browns, they were stunned. Because we're not close now, but she thought you meant the court one. Yeah, no, she loves your cat one. She loves your cat video or your cat Instagram page. My family's just huge cat animals. I however am not. Because growing up, at one point we had 25 cats in our house, and we could barely afford to feed children, let alone feed animals. And it was overwhelming to take care of that many cats. And so my boys are cat lovers. Both of my boys have, my one son fosters cats, and they love it. And my other son has a couple of cats of his own. So, go ahead.
We're only on season 2. I think we got through episode 3 and they haven't moved yet, so it could be later on in season.
Yeah.
in season 2, but yeah, I don't know. When
Yeah, we're only on
actually move
episode. So when we're done with this live, we're gonna film the next
yet. Episode 2 and
2
3.
and 3. Yep.
So,
Yay. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Shantae. She says, "Yay, my day just got a whole lot better." Melissa Hensley says, "You guys rock." Thank you. Somebody says my cat is an asshole. It's oh, my cat is an asshole is a hilarious Facebook group. Oh, that's funny. I'll have to let her know that. Let's see. I just love your channel. Oh, we already read that one. I found you guys from Sam and Melissa on growing up in polygamy. Yeah, thank you. We hooked up with Sam and Melissa at the Holding Out Help Gala on Friday night, and they are just as wonderful in person as they are on YouTube. Sam is 6'4".
yeah, I'm 6'2", and I'm looking up
Yeah.
at him like, holy, you guys are tall.
Well, they didn't even recognize us at first because we walked up to say hi to them. They actually emceed the entire gala, the entire event, which was really cool. They did such a great job. And we walked up to him, and I'm 6'2" as well. So it was funny because at first it took him a second to go, wait, who are you? Oh my gosh. Because he didn't expect us to be that tall. And I'm like, oh yeah, we have 2 kids that are 6'8", 6'9". So our kids are big. My daughter's almost 6'3". I have a boy who's 6'9", another boy who's I don't know, he's probably 6'7" now.
I'm definitely in the runt in our family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we loved hooking up with them.
Hi, Scotland. Hi, Sarah.
Oh, I love
Welcome.
that. Scott's Butterflies. Yep, that's going to be one of our vacations we finally take together since we've never done a vacation together. So, thank you guys. Yeah, Cory's severely allergic to cats, and so is our 18-year-old. They're both pretty allergic, and so we can't even have cats in our house, thank goodness. My mom wants to move in with us, but she can't live with us with her cats, and she's not willing to give up her cats. So I told her, sorry, Mom, when you're willing to give up your cats, you can move in with us, but I can't. Our kids are too allergic. But let's see. We had a couple things we wanted to talk about today on the live that have been on our minds a little bit lately, and my mind went totally blank once we started. I'm just trying to make sure the microphone's
she was in a hurry because I set the clock in the bedroom.
I know, so rude.
Ahead, and so she was like, "Oh, we gotta be on in 5 minutes."
I thought we had 5 minutes. We actually had like 15. That's so rude. Hi from Denmark. How you guys doing?
Hi guys.
So we had a couple of things that we went through and watched a lot of YouTube yesterday. Watched a couple of interviews with some people from the AUB that have done previous interviews before, and they were interesting. I'm always interested to hear other people's perspective on growing up and being raised in the AUB because everyone's experience is so different. And I've said this before that the AUB just doesn't have like a standard set of rules that it follows. Like, so it depends on who you are, and it depends on who the prophet is and what the new rules are and all the other things. So people have such vastly different experiences in polygamy, in especially even in the AUB, where everything's so it's almost up for interpretation sometimes of what people's experiences are. And so so we've been watching a couple of different interviews with other different creators and people from the AUB, and it's fascinating to hear. One that we watched, we didn't watch this one yesterday, but we watched it a couple weeks ago, he was saying, oh yeah, you can drink alcohol, you can drink coffee, and we were like, no you can't. And he goes, you're not supposed to, but people do it all the time anyways.
Yeah, you can. It's just if you were to go and get an interview by the bishop and tell the truth, then you would be reprimanded or you just lie to them, and that's what the majority of them do. So
yeah, you can if you just lie and say, no, I don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee. No, I don't drink alcohol. So you just tell them what they want to hear, and then you are a good citizen of their society.
Right.
It's that when you get caught by another worthy member of the church in the same bar or the same establishment drinking an alcohol, then you just have kind of a pinky promise with them that we won't tell on each other. So
yeah. So Melinda Hensley says, from the beginning of your video journey to now, I see a huge difference in Cory. He is so much more relaxed and interactive now. Thank you. I get so much grief for talking over the top of Cory, and I have tried really hard to fix this. But a lot of times, Cory will start to say something, and then he himself backs up because he re-questions if that's something he wants.
I should say it.
Yeah.
And so she sometimes finishes my sentences for me. So
because I can feel like I'm very, very sensitive to energies too, and I can feel him go, maybe I don't want to say that, and so then he'll back up and he won't say it. And so then I'm telling him, oh my gosh, you got to start finishing your sentence. People online freaking hate me because I'm talking over the top of you all the time.
Yep.
And so then I pause and I look at him, you have anything to add? And he sits there with this blank look on his face. I don't know.
I did run to the hospital and got that stick removed. So now I'm getting a little bit more relaxed about talking about polygamy and family and all that stuff. So
yeah, I try not to talk over him, but sometimes he does. Cory is very methodical. He likes to think about what he says before he says it. And then in his mind, it's funnier. And so then he's like, when he goes to say it, he's like, is that as funny out loud as it is in my mind? Let me rethink that. And so I just think it's funny because I get a lot of online hate for that. Maybe it's not hate. It's just like, let the man speak. Oh my gosh. And it's not that I don't let him speak. It's just he rethinks his thoughts. And then I'm like, okay, well, on to the next subject. So I watched your interview with the lady. I can't remember her name, but I believe she was brought up Amish. Got to Be Me Now is her page. Yeah. And I see so many similarities with the AUB when it comes to discipline with the kids. Yeah.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah, physical discipline is a part of it. Yes. In their teachings, they read the Book of Mormon, the Bible, and one of their teachings if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. And so very few spoiled polygamous children. So
yeah,
we've all tasted a bit of the rod. So
a lot. I was very unspoiled child. I was a very beat child, to be honest. Somebody says I'm 5'1", I'm jealous. Yeah, I always thought 6'2" is excessive for a girl, and it is. Like, I'm way taller than 90% of all the people that I know. And my inseam on my jeans, I'm most comfortable with a 39 inseam, but 37 I can get away with. But yeah, I'm pretty tall.
Her AI editor cuts me off too. So, because I pause in the middle of my sentences.
It's true.
And so it shortens it up. It's pretty cool, but yeah.
I forgot about that part. Yeah, so it is true.
It says even the way your editing software works, it cuts extra words out.
Yeah. So it's not even that I'm cutting him off. It's just he'll pause to think about what he's saying, and then AI goes, oh, there's a space. We gotta. And I mean, we could edit it ourselves, but the AI just goes in there and cleans up all of and because we're not very polished and we're brand new at this, it's like we do say a lot of ums and a lot of that kind of stuff. So AI just kind of goes, let's fix that for you. I want to say to the haters who say you all are riding on the sister wives' coattails that you're literally doing what your viewers want. So don't let their jealousy of how you all are slaying these reactions to stop you. Mm-hmm. We won't. I definitely let it pause me for a minute. Yeah. The last couple weeks have been really, really tough for me. But that's not because of what people have said online. It's just, I feel like sometimes when we start to talk about a lot of this stuff, it brings up a lot of unhealed wounds that we didn't even know that we had. And so somebody might say something that's just that much of a trigger that we're like, oh, I got to work through that. And then things start to feel a little heavy and dark. And so then, yeah. And then we went to that gala on Friday night, which was great. My mom went with us, and my mom even had like an emotional reaction to it. Hopefully my mom's on here. She's probably is. I'll probably have to text her and tell her, Mom, we're live now. Not at 1 a.m. But my mom even had a hard time with it because, that's my mom's entire life. That's what she did, what she believed was right. She was doing what she thought was the right thing. And now at 70, she sees the level of abuses that have been happening, and it's hard for her to see it. And so it is really had a lot of emotion trying to figure out if we want to go into some of the darker sides of things. And I've tried to give the AUB a cloak of charity and some grace in talking about a lot of the things we talk about. But it's hard too, because there is such a deep level of abuse, physical, emotional, spiritual, mental abuse. And it's not just, I wouldn't even say that it's just abuse. It's trauma. It's complete trauma.
I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I think the majority of the U.S., the physical abuse physical discipline was fine. There were very few times that I didn't deserve it. But it was more of the emotional, that if you don't do what we say right now, you're going to hell, and constantly feeling like that we weren't worthy of the gospel, that we were constant sinners, constantly in trouble, constantly teetering on the cliff to hell. So those were the emotional abuse is the one that I've had to try to get over the most growing up, becoming an adult. The guilt trips, the shaming, the constant, not only shaming, but it was the public shaming in front of the other family members, or in front of the pulpit, being shamed and in front of all your friends and everything, so that you would get in line, or having your friends be shamed over the pulpit, scaring you into, I've got to be good. And so it's this constant public shaming that went on with us as kids. That those are the things that the mental part of it was the harder stuff for us growing up.
Well, and it's funny because one of the videos that we watched last night, she even said, well, she talks about the new prophet, which would be my dad. Mm-hmm. She said that he's been getting up, and when he's been excommunicating people, which he has been a lot, he's excommunicated quite a few people. He's getting up in front of church and he's announcing their why they're being excommunicated over the pulpit in front of people. And that stays with somebody to have. I mean, Cory had that happen to him.
Yeah.
They announced all of his sins over the pulpit and told people to be cautious of him and aware of him, keep their daughters away from him.
Yeah.
Naughty.
Well, it's not even that keep the daughters away. It was, he is not dating anybody. He can't date. So he's off limits.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, yeah. See how horrible that is. So yeah, when she said that, I was like, that is so true. I think it's so traumatic. One of the people that recently got excommunicated was a really good friend of mine, and I have been devastated over the news of that, and just the news of what it did to his family, what he did to his family, and it's really hard, because I lost a lot of sleep over that one, and I haven't even been in the AUB in 20 years, 30 years. Well, it's been 25 years since I've been in the AUB, and that one just hurt my heart at a deep, deep level because of how much I love that man and I love his family. So somebody says, hi Mel and Cory, I'm glad to catch your live. You give an excellent perspective on sister wives. Thank you. And so Caroline says, I see my grandma and my mom and how I was brought up. It was 100% spare the rod, spoil the child. I see it in Mary, no offense, but it is how she was taught. It's true.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to kind of bring up in the next couple episodes was, you can see that the Browns, especially in season 1 and season 2, they're still deeply integrated into they have their belief system, that I almost want to say brainwashing. They're deep into the brainwashing, and it's interesting to hear the mothers talking to them about polygamy. We heard all of the spokes of the wheel, and the greasy wheel the squeaky wheel gets the grease. These were all the older people would sit there and try to explain to you in parables why you needed to be long suffering in the group. It was going to be hard, and you had to hang in there the whole time. And if you made it to the end of your life, and hung in there with all of these miseries and suppressing all of your emotions of jealousy or all these other things, then you would get major blessings in heaven. And so one of the people asked us, do we think that the Browns would probably still be together if it wasn't for the show? And yes, I do.
I think they would.
I think they would be together. Some of them might have been received releases like Mary, but they probably would have all still been in the AUB, to whether they were together or they had got a release and moved on. I think by going on the show, there was a bit of distancing from the group, the shunning from the group, that kind of pushed them away from the group, and then all of their problems were right there on TV, so they could go back and look at the other wife complaining about them. So yes, I do believe the show was part of what made them separate, and not only separate, but separate away from the AUB.
Right.
Because you see in the second episode, he's up there, and the mothers are the ones kind of encouraging them, even though they are doing the show, but encouraging them to stay in polygamy and stay strong in it. And it's going to be hard, but look what we've become, best friends at the end. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to watch the process. The show definitely had some impact on why they fell apart, and why I don't think any of them are part of the AUB anymore.
Oh no, so. I don't think they are either. There's been rumor out there that Cody and Robin are speaking to some of the leadership, but that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean anything.
I mean, it probably just means that Cody and that leader are in some swindling of a deal of somewhere, is what I'm gonna say. And so that's the only thing that that means to me. Like, that particular leader that he's in contact with is not a very honest man. So in my experience, experience says that. So yeah, I could be totally wrong.
He's probably looking to make some sort of deal or see if he can come on the show.
Right.
Which would be interesting.
Somebody says, Melanie, growing up in the cult, how were you girls told to act around boys or men? And what qualities and advice were you told to look for in a future husband? I love you two as a couple, from Norway. Thanks, Eva. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that list could be endless. Like, it depends on what your goals were too. Were you wanting to be the first wife, second wife, third wife? What was it? Yeah, we were told from the very young age. I started going into what was called young women's or girls class at the age of 11. I went early because I was so mature and thought I was such a big girl. So I went a little bit early than most girls did. And I mean, I am 6'2". I wasn't 6'2" at 11, but and so I always looked and acted a lot older than I was. So I always got a lot more opportunities than girls did at my age. And so it was funny because I have a sister who's 4 hours older than me, and there's this huge debate on, do you call them your half sister or step sister? This particular sister that is 4 hours older than me, she her biological dad left the AUB and left like 12 wives and 90 something children. Mm-hmm. And those wives were dispersed out amongst the righteous men. Well, my dad married her mom, and we realized we had the same birthday. We realized the doctor almost didn't make my birth because he was delivering her. And so her and I grew up hand in hand. She was the baby, I was the oldest. We were oil and water. We did not get along as well as we would have liked to. We did get along, but I never looked at her as a step sibling or a half sibling. We were just sisters. And so we just always referred to each other as sisters. And then I have another sister who's 4 months older than me, and we have the same biological father. And so the three of us were triplets. We called us, we were like the triplets. But they were just my sisters. I never really looked at that. So I think the debate is funny online, and we will try to be more clarifying when we're talking about stuff like that, because I know it, but it is awkward or weird for me, at least, to say, oh yeah, that one's my stepsister or my bio sister. So But her, go ahead.
Explain it this way. My sister Katie is a sister from another one of my mothers. So
yeah. So Katie, our moderator on here, she is a sister from a different mom. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, but the reason I bring up my sister is because we had two totally different ideas of what to look for in a man. I was looking for something totally different than she was because I think a lot of it was my personality. I was older. I was more of an authoritarian, a dictator, if you will, if you ask my siblings. And she was the baby. And she was more well taken care of or coddled. And her mom only ever had 3 children. And so she was the baby that was well taken care of. So that we had totally different ideas about what to look for in a man. We were both first wives. I never got a second wife or a sister wife, but she did. She, when she left the AUB, she had 2 sister wives. And so she did actually become a sister wife eventually and stayed in it. I want to say maybe 10 years. She had 2 sister wives before she left, and then left the AUB. And then she ended up marrying another AUB man. But they didn't live polygamy. They didn't want to be part of the AUB. So that's what I'm saying. It's a lot different. Most of it is you just want a man who's righteous. You want a man who's doing what God is commanded or wanted him to do, and wanted him. And so that's really what you're looking for is how does he treat if he's already married, how does he treat his current wives? Is he kind? Is he integral? Is he honest? And the problem is the courtships are so short that you can't really assess that in that short amount of time. So you kind of want to get to know him from a church standpoint too.
Well, and you're relying on your priesthood leader to also assess that man.
Right.
Because usually if he's looking for another wife, then he will go to the priesthood leader, say, I'm interested in this girl. If the priesthood leader says, yes, you can move forward, then he can talk to the father, who will then eventually talk to the girl. Right. Or if the girl's interested in a family, she talks to her dad goes to the priesthood leaders, they say, yeah, we would approve that, and then they can go talk to the man. So whichever route it goes. And part of the belief system that we grew up in is that for us to get into the highest degree of heaven, highest degree of glory, we have to live polygamy, and we have to live it with 3 wives. And so 3 was the number that really would get you in there. Yes, you could advance if you had more wives, but you needed a minimum of 3 wives to make it into heaven. So that's why Christine wanted to be the 3rd wife. That's what I'm assuming. That is a training that if she's the 3rd wife, then she's going into a family that's going to make it to heaven.
Yep.
And so a lot of the young ladies, as I was growing up, all the ladies my age were interested in older men that already had an established family, had wives, and so that they could get into that family to make it into heaven. That's what you're taught, and so that's part of the attraction to go into a family that's already established.
Yeah. So. Somebody says, so I'm just going to jump a couple questions. I'll come back to the other questions. Sister wives always said that the woman seeks the man, but can the man ask the father about someone? Absolutely.
Yes.
That's not always true. The women are not the ones who seek the man most of the time. Most of the time it is the men who go. When I started going to these girls' classes at 11, the very first time that I went, my dad was like, oh my gosh, young lady, I am going to have to lock you up. I just got like 5 men ask about you tonight. And then the whole 10 cow wife thing became a joke. And we were laughing in the back seat, like, are you a 10 cow wife? I'm a 10 cow wife. Like, and then we would compare all the time. So my sister, who was 4 hours older than me, she was always trying to beat me at whatever she could. And one of the things that she said was, she would always be like, how many guys asked about you? This is how many guys asked about me. And I was like, I don't think that really, to me, it didn't really matter, but to her it did. So it was a competition all the time. So no, the men always ask about the girls. I very seldom ever, I don't know very many women who go and ask to be in a family. I mean, I know that it happens quite often, but not it's not as often as the men seeking out the women.
Well, or other wives.
Or other wives seeking out. Yeah.
The women, because there were some men that asked about all of the girls and they got creeper status.
Oh, so bad. So I had a couple of those guys come after me, and I was just like,
those guys are creepers. So.
Dad, that's a huge fat no. That's never happening. And my grandpa used to say, there's a lot of men out there who basically prostitute their daughters out. My grandpa used to say, he used to barter for his granddaughters. When you have 350 granddaughters, you can do a lot of business that way. And so he would do a lot of, you can have this daughter, you can have this daughter, you can have this granddaughter.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Yeah, he was making promises that his granddaughters could be sold off to other people. Somebody says, when the wives and the children get dispersed to the other men, do the children stay in touch with the other children they grew up with, or do you just lose those relationships? Yes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes they do. A lot of times those children are very integrated into the new family that they come into. And so, yes, they are very much a part of that family. But my sister, who's 4 hours older than me, she recently passed. And all of her siblings, her other family that she came from, she was extremely close to most of her siblings. And I want to say that he had something like 90 something kids that he left. And those kids would get together and do big, huge family reunions. And like every couple of years or so, they'd go to a park and all those kids would get together, and the mothers would come, and they would all, because he had married several sisters. So a lot of these kids were not just siblings, they were cousins too. And so a lot of them stayed in contact that way. And this is polygonometry. This is how it works. Unfortunately, they're family wreaths, not family trees. And so in this particular case, he did marry several sisters. And so, they all stayed together and stayed really close. And even at her funeral, there was a lot of, I would say 90% of the audience was her other family. And that was a really hard one. That was my first birthday that I had without her. Was really weird. It felt really like the first birthday in my life that I didn't remember her being there. So she passed, I want to say 2.5 years ago. Okay, so let's get back up here. I want to come back and answer some of these other questions. Sorry, we kind of jumped. Somebody says you're a thoughtful thinking guy. Somebody did ask if I had to buy Victoria's Secret since I'm so tall. No, I can't afford Victoria's Secret. I don't know that I have ever bought anything from Victoria's Secret other than they have the best lip gloss on the planet, and that's about the only thing I've bought from them, because I don't shop places like that. And if I did have the financial resources to do that, I'd be taking my kids on a vacation. I wouldn't be spending it on myself. Okay, let's see. Sadly, that verse is a misrepresentation. The rod used to gently guide the sheep, not beat them with it. Well, I think that a lot of scriptures are highly misrepresented.
Yeah. Well, the thing is within this community, if there's anything in there was so much scripture that was misrepresented as we grew up, and so then they encourage us to read the scriptures, read the Bible, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, wait a minute. Now that I'm reading this scripture in content, in context, it's not the way you guys keep saying it. And they would be like, well, that's our interpretation of it.
That's where Cory got himself in trouble.
That's where I got myself in trouble, because I started arguing with them, with their own scriptures. And they didn't care for that because I was reinterpreting their scriptures. So
Cory,
they had one about hanging a millstone around the neck of disobedient children, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. It says those who basically prey upon children should have that millstone. That'd be you guys, not us. And that didn't go over too well. So.
So it is definitely, it is Cory definitely likes to be educated on what he's talking about before he'll talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the reasons it was so hard to get him to come on to the videos, because he's like, I don't know. I'm like, you do know though, because you lived it. So you just talk about what you
The way we
experienced
lived, yeah.
and the way you grew up. We don't have to be church historians. We don't have to be anything like that. We can just talk about what we've learned. Somebody says, hi from Scotland. We have a lot of Scotland
I know.
people on here.
We gotta come
So happy
visit.
to finally catch a live. That is what Cory wants to do so
Yeah.
bad, is go. On St. Patrick's Day, we went to a restaurant for lunch with my mom, and they had a bagpipe band right there, and Cory jumped out of the car and runs over there and watches the entire thing while we're waiting to be seated for lunch. It was awesome. Cory's face says 1,000 words, makes me laugh when he used to hold back on Rob, I'm the only wife, haha, and then he's thinking he's like mother like daughter. It's true. That's what I tell him. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back and watch our videos and see your expressions, because people talk about it all the time.
I mean, I'm in season 2 rewatching, and yeah, they even make fun of it in season 2. They're living monogamous. Her and Cody are monogamous. She's always been a monogamous. She's never ever been what the AUB would consider a polygamist.
But same with my dad though too. My mom and I were talking about this over the weekend, about how many people live plural monogamy.
Yeah.
They don't really live polygamy, because polygamy was, really to be lived in one home with one, the way your family did it.
The only reason that that changed was because they outlawed polygamy, and so if you had 3 or 4 wives living in one home, they would know you were a polygamist. So then they broke them up to be hidden. But that's why they were making communities like Pinesdale, communities where
they could govern themselves.
Where all of the neighbors were polygamous too, and they really kept, nobody was welcome in the community that wasn't a part of AUB, and so then they could build the big houses and live it properly based on the teachings of their original prophets. And then the new prophets just live it whichever way they want.
Yeah. They just change the rules, do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So Michelle says the priesthood has an obligation to be discreet about reading. I'm assuming that comment is for reading people's sins over the pulpit. They don't care.
No,
the AUB has
absolutely not.
F's to give. They will do whatever they want. They are their own govern.
Part of disciplining people within cults and within the AUB
is shaming.
Is public shaming. Because if they can publicly shame somebody for a sin or a crime or whatever it is, that not only puts that man or that person in place, but it also scares everybody else within the community
into compliance
too. We better never do this sin, or our name will be up there, and we don't want that public humiliation. And so it is a part, it's a part of being in that community, is if you step out of line anyway and it gets to the priesthood, then, and that was a fear within, I feel like that was a fear within the polygamous family. That's why they're so dysfunctional, because if you as a man are not doing it correctly, or if a wife is being disobedient, then she can go to the priesthood council and they will shame him, or vice versa. He can go in and say she's doing this or she's stepping out of line, and then the priesthood council will discipline her or shame her and bring him back into line. And so you don't even have this friendship, this loyalty, this trust as a married couple or married group. There's, at any moment in time, one of those members of the family could step out and tell on you to the priesthood council.
That's where I feel like so much of the similarities of The Handmaid's Tale come into play, is because of the public shamings that they do in that show. I had a lot of people say, if you do a Handmaid's Tale, I'm not going to watch it. It's too traumatic. And I don't blame people. It is very traumatic.
This is probably why Cody didn't tell two of the wives about his tryst, because if he didn't, and he took a risk by telling the two that he did, because if he ever stepped out of line within the AUB, that could be brought up by one of the wives and get him publicly shamed. So yeah, that was one of the things that I'm like, yep, there's a polygamous marriage right there, where husband and wives are not going to be open and honest with each other. They're not going to tell their deepest fears. That there's not,
because they could be
a trust
sacrificed later.
There's not a trust of your tryst. So zero trust within these polygamous marriages.
And we're going to talk about this after we film. After we're done here, we're going to film the other one. But Cody's mom talks about how proud she is of them for going public and being honest, and they are being honest. We've talked about this before, about how I thought I was being honest. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And it wasn't until after I left that I realized how out of integrity I actually was. And so I feel like when Cody's mom says this, Janelle is her name, then I was like, there you go. They truly believe they're being honest. And when you sell your husband out because he's doing something bad and you go tell the leadership, it's because you believe you're in integrity with yourself and with the leaders. It doesn't matter if you're in integrity with your husband. And the AUB doesn't care about that. I mean, one of the biggest reasons Cory got excommunicated is because they wanted him to sell out everybody who was was involved with, and he refused to do that.
They wanted a laundry list of my trysts, and I was like, well, you don't get it. You don't get names and addresses. They were trying to fill out their dating book. So.
Oh my gosh, you're so bad. Okay, we're going to catch up to some of these comments. Somebody says, would you recommend the book Predators, Prey, and Other Kinfolks? I have actually not heard of that book, but I just wrote it down because I'm going to look into that, because I think that is so true. I know that I don't know the exact percentage, but I know it's really high for people who are sexually abused or physically abused are typically most sexually abused by a family member or someone close to the family. And so I would actually be extremely interested in that book. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to take a look at that and possibly read that one soon.
Well, kind of the cool thing is, as we went through our divorce and then marriage counseling, that was probably one of the biggest things. Her and I, before we got married again, we sat and told everything. We brought everything out on the table.
I had never even told him my secret temple name up until that point.
We were like, no, if we're going to make this work, we have to bring in a level of trust into our marriage. So neither of us were scared that we were going to, if we were stepped out of line with her, that we were going to run and talk to somebody who would announce it over the pulpit or through the phone tree or something like that. It was weird to be able to go sit and talk to a marriage counselor who was like, no, I'm not going to go tell anybody. This is between us. And I'm like, holy, they do that? So yes, it's so interesting that what they do within the AUB and how they publicly shame and they do that on purpose, not only for the purpose of that person being shamed, but to scare everybody else in line too. So sorry.
No, I don't.
So now
people want to hear you talk.
We've got a great marriage because she knows all about my trysts and
he knows my secret temple name.
Yep,
we're great.
I know all of her secrets. I don't remember it, but so I know it's in the Bible somewhere. But yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I had literally, that's how indoctrinated I still was, and I didn't even realize that I was, is because I was too afraid to even share that with him. And so after we got back together, we're like, okay, let's lay it all out. Here it is.
And I'm going to apologize to all the women I accidentally call forward in at
The resurrection.
resurrection,
Oh my gosh.
because I don't remember your name.
Oh, that's so bad. Somebody says, I'm sorry I'm late. I was waiting for a 3 a.m. live. I really hope that's not true. I'm so sorry. I have got to be more careful. The way that it lets me set it up, it is so confusing. And I mean, it took me forever to even figure out how to set up a live. And then I finally figured it out. And this is twice now that I've set up a live in the middle of the night, thinking that it was 2 p.m. and I put 2 a.m. or 1 p.m. and I put 1 a.m.
This is why Dad always made us go by military time.
Well, and I used to work for the airlines, and so I always went by military time because I worked at the airline. So I really hope that that's not true. I'm so sorry if it is. The ladies' exposure to the world showed them an alternative lifestyle that they could have had, and they had Gentile friends that gave their perspective to them. And I agree with you that is one of the things that the sister wives had that not a lot of other people in the AUB have.
No.
And because you are very much, I mean, one of my very first podcasts that I talked about this, it was like I didn't have friends outside of my church friends, because why would I want that? Mm-hmm. You know, you're very much encouraged to only hang out and be friends with people who have common interests in you. The LDS Church is huge on this.
Yeah, true believers. So that if you have a question or you're worried about something, you're supposed to go to these older women or a prophet or other believers where they can reassure you through parables that the path you're on is all right, instead of saying, no, that's effed up. You shouldn't have to deal with that crap. Mm-hmm. So they're always encouraging. So it was interesting to listen to and I've got a mother that I love to death that's still a part of it. And so when I bring up doubts or bring up stuff, she just reassures me that she has faith in the original prophet.
And the testimony and faith, yeah.
So,
and that's what she truly believes.
Awesome. That's awesome, but yeah.
Well, and this goes right along with the next question. So with the men in the AUB, was it if they questioned instead of conformed, they got them out in case they caused others to question and believe the world?
Absolutely.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's like you're being, oh gosh, they had a word for it. I'm going to have to think about that. You were being discontentious, or what was the word?
Disfellowshipped is. But if
you were causing dissent amongst the ranks type thing. And so they had like a very specific word for it, because they like to change things from abuse to unrighteous dominion, anger and trauma to righteous anger. And so they love to put these scriptural words on, or religious words attached to what they're actually doing to soften the blow so it doesn't sound as abusive as it actually is. And so there is a word that they have.
Dissent. I know. Teaching dissent.
I know, that's why I was saying dissent, but we'll think about it.
But yeah, if somebody, especially those that were educated taught something different in the priesthood leadership, what would usually happen is they would have council members up on the stand, and if somebody got up and bore their testimony or talked about something that they didn't agree with, they would immediately get up and correct what he said, and then they would censure that person for a time. That person couldn't speak in church. And if they didn't apologize, if they didn't change their ways, then eventually they were disfellowshipped.
Right.
And then you, as the community, all these guys are speaking not the truth, and they would announce that this gentleman's he's speaking or he's teaching stuff that we don't agree with, and so then you weren't supposed to listen to him.
Oh yeah, and that happened a lot.
And that happens
and they
a lot.
Publicly humiliated these people on purpose.
And then eventually excommunicate them.
Right.
Which they claim they don't do, but there are so many excommunications, so they hand them out like participation trophies.
We're fine. We got to catch up a little bit on the comments too. Katie says, yeah, we're all the way back to this where your sister says, yeah, but we are just siblings. I hate it when people ask me if someone is my real sibling.
Yeah.
And that is, it's really hard for us, for people who were not raised this way, maybe they don't see it, but for us, it's really hard. It is very hard for me. Like, I didn't look at my sister, who was 4 hours older than me, as a stepsister. I never refer, even though we didn't have any biological blood. So yeah, that is really, really hard for us to, and that is one of the things I noticed last night on one of the episodes that we watched. McKelty and Madison are just going at each other, and it is hilarious because you could not, like, you just don't know that they're not from the same mom and dad. And when Cory and I got together, that is one of the things I really appreciated about Cory's family, is they're so much like my family in that way. And not every polygamous family is. There's a lot of polygamous families that's like, you're not our real sibling, so you go over there, because there's hierarchy in individual families as well. And there was in our family too, but between the children, we did not look at it that way. And so I had a deep appreciation for Cory's family because they're very much that same way. And you just don't always find that either. And for us, it was really important. We were all just siblings. Someone else says she's part of the oldest daughter dictator club here too. Well, when you're parentified at 5 years old, it's hard not to be a dictator sometimes. Let's see if we can get back down to some of these questions. What?
I like that question there.
Go for it.
Do you think that Cody picked a fourth wife so he could leave Mary? No. Part of the dogma within the AUB, you need 3 wives to get into the highest kingdom of the celestial kingdom. But to have leadership position within the AUB, you were supposed to eventually get a quorum, 7 wives that are in harmony with you. So no, I don't think he was going, hey, let's get a 4th wife and then I'll get rid of Mary. No, I think he was like, let's get a 4th wife, and depending on how much ranking I can get within the AUB, eventually he was probably pushing to get 7 wives, and probably get higher leadership positions
opportunities the
when
more wives you have.
When you prove you can take care of 7 wives and children and all of that stuff, you get more responsibility. Once you have 7 wives and are showing that you're taking care of them, the whole family's in harmony, if you will, then this guy needs a lot more responsibility, because other people are going to look up to that person to see how they're doing it and things like that. So no, I don't. He was just adding numbers. So and they wanted him to get. They would have if they'd not done the show, Cody would have probably got some higher rankings within.
And he would have gotten more wives, probably.
More wives and higher ranking within the AUB. So
So no, and I don't think any of them would be divorced. If they were still in the AUB, they would not be divorced. They would all still be together. They would just be way more miserable than they are now.
Well, I think they would have been just as miserable as they were in the first couple.
Right. Well, I think that the first 3 wives, they really did try to make it work. I mean, obviously Janelle left Cody a couple of times. I mean, I feel like they all really genuinely tried to make it work as much as they could. I mean, hell, my mom left my dad a million times when I was growing up. And so I think that's just normal, unfortunately, for people to get to the point where they're just like, we're done. Okay, Sarah says, I found it very interesting that the FLDS stories are very different as well. The Kingstons sound really messed up with all the inbreeding and incest. Do you guys know Amanda Ray? She left to Kingston. We are just now familiarizing ourselves with a lot of online people. I had not heard a lot about Amanda Ray till recently. I'd heard of her, but I didn't take a lot of time to go look at her stuff. And then recently I've been watching a little bit more of her. She was on Cults to Consciousness that I watched. And I really appreciate it when people come out and then they advocate for people who are still in. And that's really been one of my biggest things, is the advocacy. How do you help someone else get to where, get out of it if they want to get out of it? How do you help what do you do? And so there's a lot of people who just want to get out there and then just talk shit on the AUB, and I don't want to be one of those. I don't think Amanda Ray is that way either. I think she's been really a good advocate for hearing and telling the abuses that happen in incest, or I mean in these religions. But I do know a lot of Kingston stories, and they're horrific. A lot of them are very horrific.
Yeah, and that's because of their belief system that they need to keep their royal lineage alive, and so they keep everything within their family to keep that lineage of priesthood alive till when Christ comes back.
Right.
So.
Right. So somebody says they saw us on saw me on Senior Perspectives yesterday. Yeah, thanks. I was actually logging on to schedule this live, and I saw Senior Perspectives was on live, so I never get to see her live anymore. I love to see her lives. Let's see. I'm trying to get to, my grandpa would have loved Cory. He always having us tell home what the Bible meant in our minds, and to never listen to someone else, because that's what God wants you to know. Yeah, I think you're really getting your own perspective on things.
Yeah, to read and understand, and have it come in your connection. But that's called within the AUB and a lot of these groups Nefarious Revelation. You should be checking through the priesthood council to make sure that your understanding of it is the way they want you to understand it.
Right.
So again, another sign of a cult. If you're getting your own belief system and studying yourself without checking it through the priesthood council, then or leadership within your bishop, then you are downloading Nefarious Revelation. So
right.
Funny how they think that, but
so funny. Somebody says, good point, Mel. I always thought polygamists lived in one house. Living in separate houses makes it feel like independent relationships, monogamous relationships, and it is. We always just called it plural monogamy. And like Cory said, back in the day, a lot of women did live in the same houses, and that made it easier for the police to round up that husband because he's in one spot. And then they really started to separate after they did a lot of raids back in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. The wives started to separate to make it harder to find the husband if the authorities wanted to arrest him. And so
trying to blend in so that
right.
Yeah.
And so and that's a lot of the reasons why they create compounds too, is because then they can live together and they don't have to worry so much about it. But it's really hard to truly live plural marriage if you're all in separate homes. Someone says, I was a teen mom and a bride to an older man. How did you grieve the years that you lost? That's a great question. And I feel like for me, I've had a lot of grief about that. I didn't think that I would, honestly, because I had my children. And, I had my first one almost 9 months after I got married. I was just pregnant right off the bat. And then I had my next one. So I had him at 17, and he is actually turning 33 today. So my oldest child is 33 today, which is insane to me that he is, and he's such a great dad. Like, he has turned into such an amazing man. And I'm so proud of him in so many ways. Then, go ahead.
He'll never watch this, but happy birthday, son.
I know. He'll never watch this. He's really sweet. He always does all the encouraging, but then he'll never sit down and actually watch anything. But his name is Adam, and he is just an amazing kid, and he's a man, amazing man, an amazing dad. He's got 2 beautiful girls, and I totally, like, he changed my entire life and gave me purpose. The minute that I saw that child be born, it's interesting because here I am barely 17. I thought that I knew what love was. I thought, I love my siblings, everything. But the second that child came out, I have always wanted to be a better person for him. I always wanted to be like, how do I become a better mom? How do I become a better human just for him? Because I wanted him to have everything. But yeah, and then I had my next one at 19, and then my next one at 23. And I do feel like there was a lot of years lost. Like, I didn't really grieve that because I didn't really feel that as much. And then when I got together with Cory, here he was. We got married when you were 31.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really always see all the things that I felt like I lost. I didn't really feel like I lost a lot because I had my kids.
Well, that's how people ask too. Do you grieve your childhood? Or no, that's the only way I knew.
Right.
That's the only way I knew how to grow up. You know what I mean? And so, did I want to change the way my children experience their childhood? Absolutely. I wanted them to have more experiences, exactly what he's doing with his.
Well,
so
yeah.
We changed that, we broke that pattern on the way we were raised to the way
and he's such a hands-on dad.
Yeah.
He is an extremely hands-on dad, which I absolutely love that for those girls. But yeah, it wasn't until I married Cory, and then Cory just was like, he was such a man-child. He was such a man-child. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this because he's so immature for being 30. But then as my kids grew up and I started to watch the life that they had at that age, and I tell them all the time, yeah, well, when I was your age, I had a baby. And they're like, I don't care, Mom, I'm not doing that. And they get so annoyed by it, I don't care. But that's really, I think, when I started to feel more of the grief of, oh my gosh, yeah, I really didn't have a childhood. I really didn't have, I went straight from being a caretaker to my mom's kids into being a mother myself. And so I really didn't, and then I did start to grieve a lot of my childhood and a lot of the things that I'd lost at that point. But
my childhood was from 18 to 31.
Oh my gosh, your childhood was, yeah, that's true, because you worked so hard until you
did.
As soon as Cory left the house is when he started his childhood.
Yeah.
But,
so I was just, one of the things that I enjoyed with the kids is they wanted me to come and play games, play their Nintendo or whatever, and I wanted to do that because I never had that as a kid. So
oh my gosh,
I
Cory
connected with
will play every video game on the planet with our kids.
So. Board games, love them, all that stuff. So
yeah. So it was hilarious. Cory's definitely been very, very much. My kids have loved it because Cory is very much on their level.
I'm a nerd.
And sometimes. There's been times where I'm like, you cannot make me the only authoritarian in this house. Like, you have to start being a grown-up. Like, you can't make me the only grown-up. And so we would get in like these discussions about it because I'm like, I can't. My kids hate me and they all think you're their best friend. And so, yeah. I had a Disneyland ex-husband. They called him a Disneyland dad because he would show up once every 6 months and he would buy them all of the things, whatever they wanted, whatever they needed, buy us new video games, video consoles, but he would never play with them.
Yeah, and I was the nerd dad that would play with them. Thanks, brother husband. Sweet.
And then Cory used to say that. I'm the best brother husband on the planet. He buys us all these video games that I get to play with his kids with. Yeah. So yeah, I think it definitely, I think that the grief for me came after when I saw what my kids got to have that I felt like I never had. Yeah. One of these things too, so this could be a long answer, or we could kind of try to condense it a little bit because we're far behind on the questions. Somebody says, and you understand this better than I do. Cory understands Scripture better than I do by far. Speaking of misreading the Scriptures, you mentioned that the law of Sarah a few times, and I looked it up. But I wonder how the AUB interprets the rest of the story about Sarah and Hagar's disputes. So can you do like a condensed version of that?
I would have to reread it again.
Because we had this discussion the other day.
Well, just, I'm trying to remember what our discussion was about. Just the law of Sarah within the AUB. I think he used, Joseph Smith used a lot of the scriptures to justify or to get the wife behind him on, you have to go out and give me a wife. You have to be in support of this type thing. Is that the route I'm going? Mm-hmm. So the actual scripture of it, they had disputes. I don't think Hagar was considered a full wife even.
Yeah.
Where the polygamist group doesn't have concubines, or they are considered full wives, I guess. They're given the same authority as the other wives. You just as a wife are supposed to go out and help the husband and you're encouraged to do it because you want to go out and pick a wife that you might be able to get along with. You don't want him to go pick out somebody that you're never going to like, and so you're encouraged to go out and help him find that wife and invite her into the family and talk with him of what he's looking for. So yeah.
And it goes a lot deeper than that, but that's like maybe we'll do a video on our understanding of that. I've never been a scriptural knowledge of anything where Cory dives deep because he wants to understand.
I need to reread that because I know that the two wives that Sarah, or the wife that Sarah gave, was a servant and never could get a higher ranking. This is also what she couldn't have been considered a wife. This is also why they have whole belief systems behind this, where the son Joseph was sold into Egypt, and so they basically, when they give their blessings, you are given a blessing that you came through Joseph, who was sold into Egypt's lineage, Ephraim or Manasseh or something like that. And it's because she was a full-fledged wife, and she was the one that gave another wife so that Abraham, and so she achieved this great ranking. And so you, as a wife within the AUB, to be able to get that ranking within the AUB, need to do the same thing and search out and give a wife to your husband that you can get along with. And then that not only makes you a queen and a priestess within the AUB, but also bestows blessings upon your children, your lineage above. Maybe if a wife's not in harmony and not giving another wife to her husband, then her children aren't going to get the blessings that maybe the other wife's children are going to get. So you want all the blessings for your children, and so there's so much dogma, so much brainwashing that goes into a lot of these teachings that makes these young girls want to marry into a family, want to give him another wife for the blessings that are going to be bestowed upon her children and her lineage below her. And so it's all this brainwashing of scripturally, all this brainwashing of what you guys need to do to not only elevate yourself within the AUB as a queen and a priestess, but also elevate your children within your family. So those disobedient wives, their children can get cursed and are lesser citizens within the whole famai. So
so hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. We could do a whole video around that, because really I feel like, okay, this is my own little rant. I feel like the leadership in so many of these cults, they don't want you to understand exactly what the scriptures say. They want you to understand the fluff and stuff over the top of it. And if you understand just enough to stay in your place, that's all they want you to understand. Mm-hmm. And so the minute that you start deep diving and asking those deeper questions, now you're being contentious and you're being harsh, you're hurting other people around you. They want you to just listen to what they say, take their word for it, and then that's it. So the law of Sarah falls under that, I feel like. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, they don't want you to interpret it yourself. If you have a question,
that's when you get Nefarious Revelation.
Yeah, if you get an understanding of a scripture, you're reading it and you have a question. Well, wait a minute, you guys are teaching this, but that scripture doesn't seem to, well, this prophet 4 prophets ago reinterpreted that scripture to mean this. And so then well, now I've got to go read his diary, or they'll give you another where they've reinterpreted the scripture from the Bible or from the Book of Mormon. So you're supposed to go, and then you have to have faith that well, he was a prophet 3 prophets ago, so I better have faith that he reinterpreted it correctly. So yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's why I think the law of Sarah is so confusing to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says, nothing compares to the love of your child. When my son was born in 92, that's when my son was born. Yep. I couldn't understand why it wasn't on the front page of all the newspapers. It was a miracle. I absolutely agree with you. It was the greatest thing that had ever happened to me at that point. And, and I didn't know what I was doing, and my mom had just had a baby too. And so my little brother and my oldest son are 2 peas in a pod. My little brother's blonde and blue, and my son's Hispanic, so they're totally opposite the way that they look. My little brother's skinny and my son's hefty, and it's hilarious to watch the 2 of them, and they grew up together being the best buddies ever. Let's see, I'm going to try to jump down and get...
We have a scoreboard up on our daughter actually kind of invented that. That was awesome. That when we'd come out to her place in Florida, as we'd play games, we'd put our score of how many games we won. And so
our family's very competitive.
We're competitive.
So we keep track on a chalkboard in our kitchen of how many games you've won, and not how many you've lost. Though we don't do that. We just celebrate the ones that we win.
And I remember it was so easy. I'd beat these kids and then playing the different games, but then all of a sudden they got strategies, and now they let me win every once in a while.
But Cory knows that they let him win.
They let me win.
What's your favorite video game? Somebody asks.
Oh, well, it's on here. I like it because
Age of Empires?
Age of Empires. All of my boys used to get their computers. We'd get all our computers together and then build up our little armies and come in. It was a game where it was Risk, where you can't flip the board. You could slam your computer or do it like that. But yeah, I played Age of Empires with
it's so funny.
These boys all the time.
So I wouldn't say we have a huge house. We have a larger home, and in our basement, in the portion that's unfinished, I walked down there one time, and our boys are probably, what were they, 19?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say our boys, it's my little brother too, that's the same age as my son. He lived with us for a long time, and they've got those 2 and I don't know, 4 other friends, and they have a row of, because you can't look at the other people's screen. So they've got all of these computers set up in our basement. I want to say there was 10 of you guys playing against each other.
All networked together. We had to network.
Oh my gosh.
Together.
Yep. And Cory's down there just these little guys are going to kill me. And so it was a tournament at our house all weekend long. And Cory's right in the middle of all of it. And it's funny, our daughter's new, our 22-year-old daughter has a cutest little bug of a boyfriend, and he bought Cory a game for Christmas so he would play with him an online video game. I'm like, what is this video game on our computer? And it's so he can beat the boyfriend. So
I still play some games with my brothers too. So Diablo. So
so Age of Empires is probably, what's your second favorite one? Okay, so what they loved the Nintendo. Our kids, we still have an original Nintendo 64, right? And our kids loved 007.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying so hard to beat Cory. And here they are. Yeah, and his brother. And his brother, they would get so, they would gang up together, and then they would come around and they would try to kill Cory and his younger brother. And it finally got to the point where they were kicking the trash out of Cory, and
we can't even compete now. They're way too good.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And so Cory definitely jumps right into the mix and plays with them now.
Mario Kart.
In what game is it? Is it Connects? I am the bowling queen. Yeah. I win. I literally got a perfect game in bowling, and had my hands in my pockets, wasn't even trying that hard, and just whooped all of them.
Yeah, well, she was, when we first married, you married you, had that bubble game that you would stomp the.
Yeah. I've always been a huge video gamer.
With us too.
But then as soon as I had children, it was just too hard to. I can't get involved in the longer games like Age of Empires. And Age of Empires is literally like online Risk, and it can take
2-3
hours.
Yeah. And
I didn't have the time to do that because I had babies that I was taking care of. So I'm like, hey, Cory, you go and stomp these kids, make them regret, make them cry.
Teach them strategy.
Yeah, and so they would just definitely. That was some of their and so Christmas is really a lot of times where we'll sit and do this kind of stuff too, and they'll have full weekends. But when our boys lived in our basement, they had full weekends of kicking each other's butts. So, okay, let's see. I enjoy you two so much. I love the dynamics between you and how much I've learned about the AUB culture. Just imagining where you came from and the lives you've created is now so inspiring. Thank you. It's been a lot of work and a lot of therapy. I really am hoping that we see a lot more. There's a local community here called Holding Out Help that really is super inspiring and really giving therapy to people who need it, who are coming out of these cults. And so I'm really wanting to connect with them to maybe, I literally get dozens of emails. I've sent so many people from the AUB already to them. And so I'm really hoping to connect with them and work more hands-on with them to be able to help more people come out of this. I'm not a therapist, and I don't feel even slightly equipped. I can speak about it, but I don't feel equipped to handle some of the emotional traumas with people. And so that's where Holding Out Help comes in, because they have licensed therapists that really sit down and work with these women and some men who come out of AUB.
Yeah, the interesting part is there is such a brainwashing that goes on within these cults that it takes a long time. We've both even discussed it. You can leave or you can go step out, but to get rid of that dogma and that brainwashing, you have to do therapy. You have to go through and relearn how to associate in society and things like that. A lot of people will get out there and they don't know how to have conversations. Listening to a therapist where he said, if you shame somebody and it causes them to recoil back into their group, if you shame their group, if you say negative stuff, they recoil back into their group. It takes a lot of time to get out of that. It's almost like a protection that they have to learn how to let go of. They have to learn how to retrain their brain, because you get out into the world and the AUB has told you all of these things that are going to happen, and when it happens, you're like, oh, I did something wrong, I need to go back. And so it takes years and years of therapy, of relearning everything that you were taught, that some of it that you're like, well, wait a minute, I was taught this, that was wrong. And you have to come to this realization that a lot of the stuff that you were taught were distorted views of what was originally taught. And so,
well, and that's one of the things that I noticed too. So in the last couple weeks, if you guys have noticed, we've been a little bit MIA on social media. And that was one of the things I was going through for the last couple of weeks, is that exact same thing about recoiling when people start shaming or guilting. And it's hard, because as much therapy as we've done, I was doing therapy for 10 years before I even met Cory. It's hard when I read people say like frustrating or mean things about my dad or the AUB in general. That's what I was telling Cory. I feel like I've tried to give them so much grace or so much charity, because there is still that trauma response in me where somebody starts bashing, and my first instinct is to defend. And that's what I was saying to him. I need to be more open. Like, here I am talking about the sister wives being honest, And then I don't even feel like I've been totally honest about the severe level of abuse that we've actually suffered, and that goes through a lot of, even to this day, you know, with my dad being the leader, some of the abuses that are happening, and I have to start being more honest about that, and not hiding some of, or not trying to soften some of it, like I feel like I've tried to do. And not that I just need to come out and say, oh, everybody's a straight up ass. I don't need to do that, but at the same time, I need to really be more willing to talk and be more honest about what some of the true atrocities are. And you know, my sister came on live with me a couple weeks ago, and she's just like blah right there, and I felt like I had to keep softening some of it. And that's definitely a trauma response in wanting to not make it, you know, I feel like we don't have to lie about it because it's so bad on its own, but at the same time, I also don't need to try to make it okay in a way where I have been. Hopefully that makes sense. Because that's really where I feel like I've done that a lot, in these lives and stuff, where I try to, well, the AUB doesn't quite do that, or the AUB, and the biggest thing is I just don't like people to lump everybody into one sum. And when you get these cults, you get fringe people who come in off the side, and they're like extreme, and then they cause these massive extreme stories that make the headlines, but that's not how the actual community itself is. So I'm going to be a lot more conscious about differentiating when I feel like it's an individual who has done this, or a couple families who have done this, or if it's like an AUB thing, where it's generally taught. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's one of those things where you guys are talking about, yes, did we get disciplined physically? Absolutely.
Did we get beat? Yes.
Did we get beat?
I got beat until I was passed out.
I had I enjoyed conversation. My dad would have a conversation with us, but then we would get disciplined, you know what I mean? So, but I'm kind of looking at it, well, wait a minute, was it abuse? Absolutely it was, because I would be ticked if somebody disciplined my kids out.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be frustrated if my kids had been disciplined in any way. But I get upset when we go into an environment back like in the AUB, and there is a level of shame that's leaped up. Wait a minute, no, you don't get to shame my kid, sorry.
Right.
My kid, that's not a sin in our house. So
right. So it's something that we're consciously, this has been very therapeutic for us to talk and answer questions. I love answering questions on the spot, because it does give me a lot more after we're done, we'll go back and we'll talk about things, and we'll be like, oh, did we say too much? Did we not say enough? So yeah, it's been very therapeutic for us, but at the same time, here I am feeling like I want to be as honest as I can, but then I still soften things. Just like the Browns do in Sister Wives. People are like, they flat out lied to us. Well, they didn't. I don't feel like they did. I feel like they they softened it as much as they could, still telling the truth in their minds. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's been some of the stuff I've been going through for the last couple of weeks. Because, you know, even just having my sister on here, and she was just so bleh, and I was like, whoa, Emily, calm down. But I loved it too, because she does say things, because she is at that point where, you know, she's healed in some areas that I'm not fully healed in, that I could work on healing a little bit more. So we're still doing that. Somebody says, my husband loves to tell my kids that he's the fun maker and mom's the fun taker. That would 100% be our family. Cory's the great guy that everybody loves and everyone thinks he's so, and mom's the disciplinarian.
No, our kids tease her. So
do they? Is it teasing?
It is teasing. So they know it because she communicates it, that it's irritating her, that I get credit for putting up decorations when she's the one that goes and buys them and helps me put them up. We
go all out on the holidays. Yeah. And I've always done this way before I ever met Cory, way before I ever. And we'll go to the store and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest decoration. And Cory's like, yeah, we're not spending money on that. I'm like, oh yeah, we are. And then we'll get it home and everybody will be like, Cory, you decorated the house. So I'm like, didn't he though? Isn't he so amazing? And so my kids love to tease me about that, because he's the one, like, it's just, It's Cory and how wonderful he decorates our house. I'm like, every single decoration, I'm the one who bought all this stuff with argument from him, but it's great. Thank you so much, Just Scrapping. We
awesome.
appreciate you. Thank you for that super chat for $20. Wow,
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's interesting because we do go up to the compound and I'll take my kids, and so it's having to
we're very conscious when we get our kids
around it because a lot of things that are shamed up there, hey, sorry mom, I don't want my kid to hold back emotions, so
yeah,
if he wants to step outside and hoot and holler or swear and use a swear word, it's not a sin in our house. So his mom swears a lot, so
his mom, that'd be me.
Yeah.
I don't swear a lot.
So yeah, it's not a sin. It's not something we shame our kids about. They can drink a cup of coffee if they're feeling.
Oh my gosh, he started our 18-year-old, our baby just turned 18, and Cory started him on coffee when he was 3, and the kid was already
hot chocolate, but yeah.
It was coffee.
No, he liked cream and sugar, so.
Well, it was basically, I made it hot chocolate, basically.
Well, I'd always go out and sit and drink my cup of coffee, and he wanted to come out and do the same thing, so.
He wanted to be
like
Dad.
And then whenever we went camping, we would get, we'd make him a little hot chocolate, and so it was his coffee, and so, hey, let's go out on the porch and have coffee and watch the sunrise.
Our favorite thing to do is sit in the back, or sit in the front and watch the sunrise.
Sunrise with him and drink our little warm cup of
coffee.
The
kid can't get up on a day of school, but he'll get up to watch the sunrise if it's a weekend. Somebody says, did you watch Seeking Sister Wives? Season 1 was so shocking, but they took it down. We did watch it, and it was very shocking, and it was, I mean, everyone can live whatever lifestyle they want. I'm not here to, like, you do whatever you want, but it's definitely not sanctioned by the AUB in any way, shape, or form. In the first season, we knew the Aldridges. I grew up with one of his wives. Cory grew up with the other wife, and we knew, I think his first name's Jeff, right? And I know his ex-wife I adore his ex-wife. That one was shocking for me, very much so. I don't think it's appropriate. I personally wouldn't do it because there's the emotional dynamics of these types of relationships are so complex as it is. And then you add public scrutiny and public judgment, which is what I'm doing right now. And I don't think I would do that. I would never put my family, and when I grew up with his wife, Vanessa, and you grew up with, I think her name was Cheryl. Mm-hmm. You grew up with Cheryl. And I was very stunned at that, to say the least. Now, I've always adored Vanessa. I've always adored her family. She is Mitch's sister from Sister Wives. She's Mitch's sister. And she's beautiful. She's wonderful. I adore her mom. I have always loved her dad. I went to Israel with her dad. And so I have very much intertwined with that family in a million ways, but I was very stunned, to say the least. I don't think that I would personally do that. So, go ahead.
It's just interesting. Some of the people have asked in here how different people go around getting other wives within the AUB, and do people, send out missionaries and bring other people within the AUB? I didn't think they did, but yeah, apparently, careful, there's some guys out there on dating apps.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe we just brought that up.
So yeah, sometimes they go on dating apps looking for other wives, so that's kind of cool.
We found somebody that we know on a dating app last night. Well, someone else did, and they sent it to us, and we laughed. We had a good laugh.
Oh my goodness! I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of getting wives like that.
He already has a few wives, so apparently you can go on dating apps and find yourself some new wives. And thank you for everyone who suggested lanolin. I get the worst dry mouth, cotton mouth, and somebody suggested lanolin, and this has been super helpful for me. So thank you so much. I don't know why I didn't think about that sooner.
That window's so bright, I'm having a hard time reading.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful day here in Utah. Okay, glad to learn about holding out help. do they have branches outside of Utah? I don't believe that they do, because they're specifically for polygamy. And that's what they were finding over they had a gala on Friday night, a huge fundraiser. And that was one of the things that they were saying, is most therapists were not equipped to handle the kind of traumas and abuse that women were experiencing, or men even, of coming out of polygamous situations. And so they really tailor a lot of their therapists to handle these specific types of traumas. Therapists and psychiatrists are definitely equipped to handle traumas, but these are some very specific religious traumas that can be, it's almost like one step closer to death almost. That's the kind of trauma that these women experience. Religious trauma can be so devastating at different levels, and so they actually have a lot of therapists who specialize in that type of trauma. And so that's what I think is so amazing about it. We have our friend back. Hi.
By them stepping away from the priesthood leaders, they are stepping away from their celestial kingdom, their afterlife. They are not just dying here on earth. They are dying or being
eternally
cursed eternally.
That's what. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was trying to say, is that this is an eternal death, not just a
eternal damnation.
Right.
They're stepping into and willing to have to take on based on their belief system. So it's not just physical death. These guys all believe that once you die, you move on. So physical death, I feel like, is less damaging to a lot of these people leaving the polygamous group than the eternal damnation that they're going to be living.
My sister Emily is listening. She does a little clap. Yep, thanks, Em. You were inspiring when you came and did a live with me, because I've been chewing on that for a couple of weeks about how I could be more honest about the things that I'm talking about. And mostly I just don't want to talk trash about people online. And so I'm having to learn that difference between what feels gossipy or what feels like just trash talking and what's truth. And so I've really been working on that for the last couple of weeks. So I appreciate that.
And being honest with ourselves of, did we have it that bad? Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Because I wouldn't have put my children through the same parenting.
That's how we are literally trying to figure that out, because we do, and this is a lot of trauma survivors will do that. They're like, was it really that bad? Mm-hmm. Am I just being over exaggerative? Was it really that bad? Yeah. And so the other night we were laying in bed talking about it, and I was like, well, would we have accepted this if this happened to our children?
To our son.
No.
Or
then it was
children. Absolutely not. We wouldn't have. We would have went to war.
Yeah. So. Yes. But I really like this question. I want to answer this one. Could an apostle Could apostles remove a prophet if they don't agree with the direction a prophet is taking the AUB?
Okay. Well, the last prophet got accused of
sexually abusing his daughters.
And did they remove him? No. In fact, the apostles gathered around him and supported him. That they didn't believe that accusation.
Not all of them, though. Some.
And were they? But those that might have dissented, were they put in line, or were they?
Well, then one, he just left the apostleship altogether.
Yeah. So, but that's a choice. But he is given the choice of leaving, but if they didn't surround him and support him, then they would have all been excommunicated for
speaking ill of the Lord's anointed.
Speaking ill of the Lord's anointed, and you want to support him because the prophets before jumped over council members that were in line because they didn't agree with some of the things that they were doing. So, if you wanted to be the next prophet, then you support the current prophet because you expect, as the current prophet, that those people below you are going to support you in your decisions. So you're supposed, what's it called? In harmony. It happens within the leadership of the AUB too. If one of the council members is out of harmony with the others, they could be reprimanded and have their, so once you get in leadership position, the Lord, their belief system is that they are in communication with the Lord, and the Lord is the only one that will take them out of that position. The other brethren can't get together and do a coup. They can start
Well,
their
they
own
would just start their
religion.
own church at that
They would
point.
start their own religion, but only the Lord could take them out of that position, leadership position, and that's usually through death. So,
Yeah. So
and
that,
since he's the only one talking to the Lord directly.
well, and he did get revelation that he was not guilty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you go talk to the Lord
he
like, no, you're not
legitimately
guilty.
claimed that the Lord spoke to him and said, because normally what they'll do is they will also have like a bishop's court or a bishop, like I think they call it bishop's court, or your dad was a judge over those at one point.
Well,
But they would go through the process of talking to everybody, getting everybody's stories, all that kind of stuff. And this last prophet that was accused of sexually abusing his daughters is the reason I left the AUB the first time around. Just FYI, it was the same man who was looking at my daughter at 2 years old sitting on the carpet playing, and the way he was looking at her was so disgusting to me that I watched him, he's leaning, I will never forget exactly how he was standing against a fire mantle with his arm up, leaning up against a fire mantle, watching her play on the carpet. And the way that he looked at her was so gross to me that I looked at her and I looked at him and I went, I can't do this to her. I can't make her grow up this way. Mm-hmm. And so he is the same man I've talked about several times in several videos that we've done, where I was so disturbed by that, and that was my final straw. And then I did leave the AUB at that point, and then a couple years later I had another baby that was medical baby, and I was right on the brink of a divorce, and my ex-husband and I thought God was punishing me for leaving, unrighteously leaving. And so then I went back to the AUB for 2 years after that, not quite 2 years. And so yeah, it's a mind game. So I left it the first time when I was 22, almost 23, went back when I was 24, and stayed until I was 25, almost 26-ish.
So it takes a lot of work to get out of these cults.
It's not something that you just make your mind up and walk away and then go, oh, did I do the right thing? You're always questioning if you did the right thing all the time. Mm-hmm. For years I did. Let's see. Let's see if we can get some more questions. Oh, every time I do that and it jumps. And then I miss all these questions. Dang it. Sorry. My dad fussed at my sons recently, and it was like a 5-year-old again. I talked to my mom and my husband about it for days. My mom must have said something because my dad hasn't done it again. Yeah, isn't it crazy how you will get triggered over something and then you're not sure how to handle that? Okay, let's see. Here we go. Sorry, I hit the little roll button and it just jumped all the way to the end of the comments. We want to make sure we get... I bet it's a hard road because they shaped your minds from the very beginning, but you broke the curse with your kids. That's a huge accomplishment, because that would be hard to do without a role model. It was very hard. And that's where I feel like we, as the oldest in our families, have really tried to be that role model for other people, because we didn't have that. I didn't have that.
No.
Yeah, we were the first really to leave. Well, and nobody in your family had ever been excommunicated before. Had your dad been excommunicated before you? He got excommunicated after you, right?
I was the first.
Yeah. So we didn't have those role models. So that is one of the biggest reasons why we speak out too, is because when you go this road, it can feel very lonely and very scary. And it's a constant every single day. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? You know, and you're always looking for reasons. I was always looking for reasons why it wasn't the right thing. Is God punishing me here? Is he punishing me here? Is he doing this? Is he doing... And so I was constantly in question all the time if I was doing the right thing. And so I feel like being that support for someone else is one of the best things I feel like we can do, because neither one of us had that availability. Okay, me too. They won't just cut their losses, but they will. Oh, okay. I think that's a different conversation. I think there's conversations going on in our chats, which is fine.
I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah. Let's see if we can answer some more of these questions. We'll keep talking for about 15 more minutes, and then we definitely want to try to keep our lives under 4 hours. We did that one live with my take on reality, and we love James, but that went 4 hours long, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was a long time. I think they're talking about Robin and Cody in here and the spending. Oh, thanks, M. M says, I'm proud of you both, but no, I'm proud of you, little sister. Get out here so we can film a couple more episodes together. Let's see. Yeah, she said again, I was like, nope, you're not making my child feel small and scared, but my immediate response was just to freeze. It's hard to navigate through. It is. It is. And the thing is you don't know how you're going to react until you're put in the position. And then you're put in the position, and then you might like, why did I react like that? But now you know better for next time. And I'm a firm believer that we do the best we can with what we know, and when we know better, we'll do better. What are you saying?
Just your mom was saying that.
Oh, is my mom on here?
Yeah, we're going to all show up at the same place. And I'm going to scare the heck out of all the AUB members going, you guys came to hell too? This is awesome.
Oh, that's funny. My mom said that?
No. She said, I'm way ahead.
Oh, my mom says, if heaven is where my ex-husband and his wives are, I don't want to go there.
No, you're going to come hang out with us.
Mom.
But then I don't know. I think we're all going to show up at the same place. And so.
My dad used to say to my mom, and she'll correct me if I get this wrong, but he used to be so mad at her because my mom is the type of person that in the middle of the night, if you needed something, and it didn't matter if she had 25 kids or whatever, she's nursing a baby, whatever, she would get up and go help you. And it used to infuriate my dad because he was like, you have church responsibilities to do in the morning. And my mom would say, I'd rather be out in the dirt toiling with the common peasants than be in the temples with the priests and the teachers. And so you'll find me working out in the dirt with the commoners. That's where she felt the most comfortable. Yep. Instead of being in the church with the saints.
No. The saints are the ones working, and then
instead of being in the church with the sinners.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I know I just butchered that story. Sorry, Mom. But yeah, go soft on yourself, Melanie and Cory. It's heavy, and you guys lived it and survived the experience. Your stories are appreciated. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, because honestly, that's really what I've been going through the last couple of weeks. Emily came, and this nothing to do with Em, but Em came and we did that live together, and it really kind of like got me chewing on a bunch of stuff and really thinking about a lot of stuff and the way that I present what it is I want to share. I still want to find a cloak of charity where I can, but I still want to acknowledge abuse where abuse has happened.
And this is therapy for us. It's unloading. It's making me kind of what can I talk about? I feel like I talk to my children growing up, but it's okay to communicate to everybody around that the AUB isn't this pretty thing. There's still belief systems that are harmful. And it might not be as bad as this one or that one, but it's still bad. It has belief systems and shaming and all this other stuff that you get as a child that you have to get over as an adult. Most people coming out of the AUB do need some form of therapy. So
absolutely.
To get over traumas that we lived through as children. So.
Yeah. Well, somebody says, adding to my question, does Holding Out Help have a hotline or a number for women in another state? That's a great question, and I wrote it down. I'm going to check into that, and I'll let you guys know about that, because I'm not sure. We are so brand new. I didn't feel like we were having, we're getting to the point now where we are having more of an impact and people are finding us. But I just kind of felt like we were like small potatoes for a long time, and we still are. We're still very small potatoes. And so I hadn't thought about like just getting us brave enough to even speak about things was like the first step. And now trying to help other people is where I want to jump right into that. So my goal, what I'd love to see, is to have some sort of a button on our homepage on YouTube or some sort of a link where you can go straight to Holding Out Helps and get the resources there. So that's really what I'd love to see. I know Sam and Melissa during Christmas, they had like a donation button on their page. I'd really love to do something like that. So I'll be reaching out to Holding Out Help and see. And I don't know, maybe we're not big enough yet that they want to work with us. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. They just had their huge gala on Friday. So I wasn't going to contact them this week. I was just going to kind of let them, settle down from the gala. And then I was going to contact them on Monday to kind of find out what we can do and how we can connect with them so that we can connect people to them. So thank you for that question. I did write that down. Somebody says, you helped me validate my upbringing. A Catholic dad and a Mennonite mom brought up heavy Baptist. Yeah, thank you. I think religious trauma is one of the most severe traumas out there. It's right up there with sexual abuse. It's right up there with so many, like there's abuse, and then there is abuse that takes your soul. And I feel like trauma is just one of the things that it takes years to recover, if not a lifetime to recover. Part of that, Mel, is because you talked Cory up so much the first 10 years. It was part of your training in polygamy. It was, I don't know what she's talking about. I did talk Cory up because the kids like you so much more than me.
Oh.
Isn't that so true? Will Alice be on the bench at Halloween again? Yes, we do. We have that. We've had that little skeleton out there for 20 years, 25 years now. So let's see. Going from keep sweet to staying spicy. I love it.
Yep.
I tell my kids they can swear at home but not at school. I learned I had to do this when I heard my 3-year-old daughter repeat the words about our dog. He's a dickhead. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Well, a lot of the therapy that I was taking when I first started taking therapy was emotions, feelings that were inappropriate to show, anger, things like that. I pushed down over the years, and you would just push it down, and it was damaging. It was damaging to who I was. I didn't even know who I was, and so one of the things that we were learning is that's extremely damaging to children. So we wanted our children to be able to communicate when they were frustrated, when they were angry, when they were excited. I want to hear all about it. If you're angry, why? I want to know what those feelings are. Those are things that I don't think we didn't get that. We were just told to push it down or not to express our anger. And so yes, we wanted different things for our kids. So when our kids hooping and hollering or swearing because he's frustrated, my mom's like, get big-eyed like, oh, you let him do that? And absolutely, we let him do that. I don't want him. And
sometimes a good F word just heals everything.
It's exciting.
You say it right then, the trauma goes out of your body from being killed on a game that your dad just kicked your butt in or something like that. You just say a good F word and you move on, and the trauma doesn't stick. Yeah. So, somebody says, do you ever worry that they will try to corner your kids when visiting and try to sway them into the AAB? I used to really worry about that.
When they were younger.
But I feel like we have really given our kids they have such a strong sense of self that I don't worry about that now. But when they were younger,
I feel like the lady who said that that's how we were. Hey, we heard this, or we read this belief system, or we heard this from Grandma. Well, how do you feel about that? And so we have basically trained them to think for themselves. We didn't want to tell them.
We didn't tell them if it was right or wrong,
because we were told how to think, and I was constantly questioned how I thought. So I wanted to get their opinion on what they thought about it, and they're good kids. So
we do. That's our first question.
So,
well, what do you think about that, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Does it make you a better person? Does it make you happy? And are you excited on this? And so, yes, we parented a little bit different, and I didn't care for the dogma that I grew up with, so I absolutely wasn't going to pass that on to my children.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've got every once in a while we have. I'm not worried at all about. All 5 of our kids are free thinkers, and they're not one of them's attached to any sort of religion.
Even now, they'll come to us and they'll say stuff, and we'll be like, well, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
What do you feel about that? What do you think that that's, tell me, and if you do think that that's true, tell me why you think it's true. If you don't think it's true, tell me why you don't think it's true. And then that way they're problem solving themselves in their own mind, and my job is just to listen and guide a little bit. Well, think about this, think about that. And so we really try to give them as much space to define what they believe in for themselves.
My brother husband probably pressures them more than to follow a religion. So and his family, so. And they're very resistant joining a cult. So
somebody says, so when the prophet dies, does the ones who don't agree with his teachings do they believe he was fired and went to hell, or did he get to go to heaven? I think that's funny. Most of them die of old age.
Say that again.
When the prophet dies, does the ones who didn't agree with his teachings, do they believe he was fired or went to hell, or got to go to heaven? So did God fire him, and so he killed him, like took him off the earth?
No, because he probably said that he got his calling and election made sure before he died.
So yes, for those who don't know that terminology, explain what that means.
Oh yeah, so once you have lived a righteous life and have made it, and you're almost ready to pass away, then the Lord or the Lord's anointed can give you a calling and election made sure. Basically says confirmation that you're going to heaven, or your family is going. You have lived a great life, and you're going to go to heaven. And so, and so basically, I'm assuming, I don't know, anything you do after that is null and void because you've already got your calling and election made sure. So basically, it's just it's the golden ticket to get into heaven. So you get your calling and election made sure. So once you become prophet, then I'm sure you're going to get your calling and election made sure. And so yes, if you died, you still are getting into heaven. You are a good and faithful servant. The Lord just stopped you from doing anything that was damaging, and you died. It's not. And
it's almost like at that point you don't have free will, because the Lord's going to intervene in your behalf so that you don't screw up before you die, since you already have your calling and election.
Yeah. So everything he tells you, so everything they do, is the Lord's work, and so the Lord's voice is he's speaking, not a man. A man couldn't speak things like that because he would die if he was speaking untruth. So that's their dogma, their belief system in it. So yes, even when he dies, he's got his calling and election made sure, he's making it into heaven. And the highest degree of heaven, when you have your calling and election made sure, you make it into the highest degree.
Right.
So even though you die with no wives.
Yeah, so the last prophet died with no wives. He had no wives. They all left him. And he died
were dead.
They all passed away. So the ones that passed away, I mean, they were still in harmony with him, but the ones that were still alive, he died with no active wives. I'm like, how on earth could you guys even support this man?
That's against your teachings or your belief system. No, this was special dispensation or whatever they needed it to be to say that he was still making it into heaven. So.
Well, somebody says, Melanie, did your dad support the last prophet after the allegations? Just wondering, since he became the next prophet. Yes, he very much did. He very much supported him. They all had to pray and gain their own testimony. And this is the bullshit part that I hear all the time. Now you're going to get like the frustrated part of me. Is the fact that, oh, the Lord works in mysterious ways. We don't know the Lord's plan. All we know is that we need to be supportive of the Lord's anointed.
And not speak ill of him.
And not speak ill of the Lord's anointed. And so it's just it's a load of crap.
These young girls are speaking ill of him.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, so yes, my dad very much did support him. Yes, there was very much, there was a lot of people that had to pray and gain their testimonies that he was the new prophet. It's just such, I get so annoyed with it because don't look at what's right in front of your face. Look at what you're being, like, feel with your heart what you're being told.
Well, and that goes along with the belief system that if he had done these things, the Lord would have intervened and he would have been taken before he had got that leadership position.
Right.
And so by the Lord not hitting him with lightning, well, I haven't got, and I know I'm being blasphemous sometimes based on their thing. I am blaspheming about the dogmas that I grew up with, and I'm not getting hit by lightning.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they have such a strong belief system in that the Lord would take him away and not allow him to do those things, that why would I believe this young girl who is separated herself from the AUB? Or and they get shunned, they get pushed further away because of this. So
well, and here's such a crap part of it. This is how cults get you to believe this is how they can justify and remove anything because they're over here going, well, yeah, just what Cory said. Well, the Lord wouldn't have put him in this position if those accusations were true. The Lord would never have allowed this to happen. And you know, there's a scripture out there, and it was one of my very favorite scriptures growing up. And it said, faith without works is dead. So people don't want to believe what they can actually see, so they're not going to do the work to find out if that's true or not. They just have the faith. Yep. They just have the faith. Nope, I believe what the Lord would never have let him have that position. Bullshit. Yep. I get so angry because I get so tired. And sorry, Mom, I know my mom's on here, and this is one that my mom has said a dozen times to me, is we don't know the Lord's plan. We don't know what the Lord has in mind. The Lord works in mysterious ways. And it's just infuriating to me because it's like, but when do we not believe these victims, you know, that this man is the reason I left in the first place. I mean, there was a million other reasons. This was just the straw that broke the camel's back, that I won't do this to my daughter. So yeah, it's just a lot. And this is how they keep you under their thumb and in oppression, is because there's a million ways to explain it away.
Mysterious ways.
Yeah. So Cory's
Creepy
little
ways.
sister, Katie, says, I had a conversation with one of our mothers because I couldn't believe that they would leave someone being accused of sexual assault in the leadership, causing the members to defend that kind of behavior. Yeah. Oh, I had very, very many conversations with my mom about it too, and I don't understand it. I don't, and you know, one of the daughters that spoke out the most was one of Brady Williams' wives on My Five Wives, Rosemary. And Rosemary and I grew up together. She's a little bit older than me, but we grew up together and we were friends growing up. And I believe her. I 100% believe her. One of my favorite sayings is, my ex and I split for religious reasons. He thought he was God and I didn't. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Mom, you can use that one from now on. When an AUB man dies, can his children attend the funeral if they were estranged from him and have left the AUB? Well, yes. Most of the time, yes. But it really just depends on the family and the situation. You know, when my sister passed a couple of years ago, my dad didn't come to the funeral. And I mean, he's raised her since she was 4. We were 4 when they got married. And yeah, I was sad and disgusted by that. And I don't know why he didn't. I don't know if he just had shame. I don't know if he had guilt. I don't know why he didn't come to that. But I've wondered that often too, because of so many of my dad's kids are estranged from him right now. And I've wondered, when he passes, how that would be handled. How would I would probably go to the funeral. I would think that I would go right now, but I don't know how many of my other siblings would go. So that's a great question. I just feel like it really just depends on.
Yeah, when my dad passed, there was a majority of us. There were very few that were still a part of the AUB, and we all went.
Right.
I don't know if we were welcomed, but we went anyhow. So.
Right. So yeah, I think, but in my dad's situation too, I'm curious because he will have been the prophet, so it's going to be a big deal when he passes. And so I'm curious. That's been on my mind lately too. So that's funny that you'd ask that question because it has been on my mind. Do you find a lot of the women are being silenced for being truthful? Absolutely. Absolutely, they're silenced. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's not just there. Anybody who dissents within the AUB, children, women, husbands who are starting to have questions about the leadership, they can be escorted out of AUB and have their wives taken away and reassigned. So yes, anybody who dissents is usually eventually pushed out or shunned or excommunicated, whatever. Excommunicate, some people are stubborn and hang around and basically, no, you need to excommunicate me. And so if they feel like somebody's hanging around causing enough disruption, teaching nefarious revelations, things like that, confusing people, then they will excommunicate them and then have them shunned from the group. But most people they get to a point where they're just like, okay, I'm done, and they leave and start over, and their wives are recycled back within the
I know
AUB.
people are like, they get dispersed, they get recycled. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think recycled's the better word. I think it's hilarious. Yeah. My sister Emily says there isn't a chance in hell that she would go to my dad's funeral. And I feel like there's a lot of people, he's got a lot of kids who feel that way. One of the biggest questions, and I was going to start the live out with this question, but I kind of forgot until now. One of the biggest things I've been curious about is how do a lot of the people in the AUB continue to follow I've had people reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, I looked up to your dad and this wife, and I thought that they were like the perfect king and queen couple. And then I looked at your dad and this wife, and yet one of my biggest questions is the wife that she thought was like the queen next to my dad, out of her 9 children, only one of them stayed in the AUB. The other wife has 0 children in the AUB. My dad, out of his 34 children, has 4 children in the AUB. How do these members and these followers sit there and follow these people that have no children that follow what they teach? How is it good for you to teach your children what these people are teaching? How is it good to expose your children to these teachings when their own children don't follow them? It's something to ponder, something to think about. And I know we get a lot of AUB people that watch us. Maybe they don't watch us live, they watch us later, because dozens of women have reached out to me. But that is a genuine question. I'm genuinely curious about how you can sit there and take lectures and take spiritual guidance from people whose own children don't follow them. Literally think about that. If you're a current AUB member, I would 100% consider that, especially with, he's got a wife right now, the one that has 1 child in the AUB, and she's pretty ill right now. She's pretty sick, and the good majority of her children have nothing to do with her. And so how do you take counsel? How do you take advice? How do you take spiritual leadership from people whose own children want nothing to do with them? I don't know. I've been chewing on that for a couple of weeks too. That's what I was telling Cory. I'm like, I don't know if I can go live or do anything because I have like so many of these angry questions going on right now. Let's see. I'm gonna try to catch up. That's the thing. I feel like you guys and growing up in polygamy are more than a Sister Wives gossip channel. You're helping people every day. Thank you. I really hope we are. Someone says, Mel, you've helped someone who was spiritually married There were 2 previous legal spouses. She's been able to find a law group and file for divorce and custody. Oh, that does my heart so much good. Thank you. Just helping one person changes all the lives connected to that person. So it's never just one life. I fully agree with that, especially when you're, if we realize like the ripple that we leave in the lives of people that we know.
Yeah, a whole new generation.
Right.
We've got we're breaking generational curses.
Yeah.
and raising a whole different generation of kind, loving humans. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try to scroll through here and see. Somebody says, by the way, your channel is amazing and so informative. Thank you.
Hey, Patel, sorry I haven't been able to keep up.
I know, I'm trying to catch up with the comments. There's so many of them. I felt or feel the same emotion when I gave birth to my son. It was like my soul bloomed. I'm still in awe of him. I am too. Yeah, I don't know if my mom and my sister were on earlier. Today's Adam's birthday. He's 33. My oldest child's 33 today. Feels so weird. You know, I never would have thought at 17 years old how much my children would change my life, and they gave me strength that I didn't know that I had. They just made me see life in such a totally different direction. Someone from the AUB told me they wondered what happened to that girl to make her say that. So Cory's little sister says someone from the AUB told her they wondered what happened to that girl to make her say that her
negative
dad had abused her.
And the priesthood leader.
Yeah, instead of saying why would her dad abuse her, they want to know what happened to her that she would accuse her dad of such abuse. Somebody says, based on Rosemary's personality on My 5 Wives, it felt trauma-fueled, especially for her insecurities. Oh, yeah. And Rosemary is a beautiful person. I've absolutely loved her.
I love it, too, that those children, those wives can, well, they're turned over to the buffetings of Satan, or they're possessed, you know what I mean? But this is the Lord's anointed. There's no way he could be possessed. He could. That's blasphemy to even speak that. Well, he's the dirtbag that is doing things to young people, young girls' daughters. Maybe he's the one possessed, but oh no. The Lord's,
victim shaming at its finest.
Lord's anointed could never be possessed. So
yeah. Somebody says, thank you for replying to my funeral question, Mel. Do you think that any of the Brown OG3 kids would go to Cody's funeral when he passes? We haven't followed up a lot on the kids. I would think that they probably would. There might be one or two that wouldn't, but I would think that but again, we haven't watched the whole series, so we don't know the full extent of the damage that has been done. So, I don't know. Somebody says...
Seeing in the part of season 2 that I'm starting to watch and everything, there was still a connection. He seemed to have this connection with his kids. Those kids remember fond things. I remember fond moments too. And so maybe they do heal. I mean, I had to do some healing with my father, but then I went to his funeral. So because we had communication, he went to therapy. He went to the VA's office and went through therapy and came and talked to us and apologized and was genuinely sorry for some of the things that went on. And so I was able to build up a relationship. If he does that, great. If not, I don't see that happening.
I would kind of think that they would, based on the younger childhood years that we've seen in the show already. I would think that they would go, but again, I have no idea. I don't know the extent of the damage. Did you ever consider leaving the AUB before you were excommunicated?
Yeah, I did. I think the whole reason that I really didn't consider myself a part of the AUB when I got excommunicated.
Really?
Yeah.
If you're really honest, I thought you were. I thought you were pretty deep in it.
No, I was trying to atone for my sins, You know what I mean?
Right.
But I didn't want to have multiple wives. I didn't want anything to do with that. But as a kid, I was shamed. I had done stuff sinful. So yeah, let me go and atone for my sin, so at least I can make it to some form of heaven. But I wasn't going to, at a young age, I was not going to become a polygamist. I dug my heels in on that. So
yeah.
But,
Emily, are you saying it was the day I learned a new level of love when Adam was born? So Emily, my sister Emily she was 11 when my son was born. And she was like, I lived with my mom. We had an apartment in my mom's basement. And Emily was like a little surrogate mom to him for his whole life. He thought she was the most amazing thing that ever walked the planet. And she thought he was pretty amazing too. Let's see. I moved to St. George a year ago and have been obsessed as a non-Mormon with the Mormon culture. I suspected that there was abuse in the mainstream LDS. What are your thoughts on this? I think there absolutely is. That's one of the biggest reasons I stopped going to the LDS Church. My 16-year-old daughter was being called in by the bishop, and in a private room with no one else there. It was only her and the bishop. And I actually really liked this man. I thought he was a great man, didn't have any problems with him before, and he was asking her about personal, intimate sexual acts. And there was no one else in the room, just the two of them behind closed doors. That's a form of abuse right there. So I think there's a ton of abuse that goes on in the LDS Church. Well, and I think there is in any organized religion, in my opinion.
And I think the most frustrating part about it is that we had tried to change the way we were raising our kids so that we weren't raising them in shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's going to a bishop and to this other person's house, and they are heaping shame and guilt on her, and she's fallen for it. And
she was.
So we're like, no, okay, we got to get, So
yeah,
we pulled far away from it because it had the same levels of shame and guilt. I felt like they might have kept it more private than announcing it over the pulpit, but there was still the same shame and guilt that was involved in it.
So much. So I think any religion that has shame and guilt as the foundational principles
to push you guys.
Yeah, and I know someone else got on there and said, someone got in my comment section and said, share your own experience. That wasn't my experience in the LDS Church. I didn't grow up with shame and guilt. And that's awesome. If you didn't grow up in the LDS Church and you didn't experience shame and guilt, that's amazing. Like, great for your teachers, great for your leaders, but too many of them do. And that was my experience when I was in the LDS Church. I was in the LDS Church for 10 years, almost 10 years, and it was not an easy path. Someone says, when my son was in the ICU, there was an FLDS mom there. She used that chance to escape. I was asked to carry clothes and supplies into her. This was during COVID. I always wondered how she was. Oh, that's awesome, though, that you were able to help her.
Awesome. Yeah, my experience at the AUB, you leave. If anything, all you had to do is say something blasphemous or dissenting, and you were pushed out. You were welcomed out. You leave. You know what I mean? So, but I understand that there are situations where women have felt like that they've had to leave and leave their children behind or stuff like that. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. You're packing up your kids, and a lot of times they're told not to go to the authorities because you're living you're living in a crime. And so if you're going to go to the authorities or try to get a divorce from that person that you were never legally married, they were going to take the kids away and give them to foster care. So and patterns that I've seen that might have happened, but patterns that I've seen, you went to the legal system and you won custody of your children. They didn't go into foster care. So
right. But too many times that's the threat that these women are faced with, and they don't know that. Somebody says,
Yep. That's what you got to do is lick the butter off the buns.
oh my
of
gosh,
bread.
then you're asked to leave.
Yeah, then you're asked to leave.
Somebody says, so do the people who are teaching the children the rules and the values of the AUB tell what would happen if you leave? Do they believe this stuff? Yeah, I mean, that's yeah. I was a primary teacher for so many years. I was a primary teacher for 10 years, I think. And it was really hard because I would listen to what some of the other teachers would say to their kids, and it was really hard for me. I grew major trust issues about letting anyone else teach my children the gospel, because I would listen to these people. I'm like, you cannot believe the shit that you're saying right now. There's no way that you can actually believe that, but they do. And I think some of them actually do, and I think it gives them a power trip to say some of that shit to children. Yeah, I think that they do. What do you think?
What? I don't.
See,
Yeah,
now
if
AI goes and edits this video, they're going to cut you off, and now people are going to be like, because you're like, I don't know.
What was the question again? Sorry.
If the people who teach this stuff, what's going to happen to people if they leave the AUB? If they're the ones teaching your kids this stuff, do they believe it themselves? Do they, like, they're teaching your kids, hey, I'm leaving, you're going to leave the AUB, you're going to go to hell, and your life's going to be.
Do they believe it?
Yeah. Do the people teaching that to your kids believe it?
Absolutely they do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you've been raised up. That's what you're trained, believed, taught. Yeah, if you leave the AUB, you're going to be turned over to the buffetings of Satan. You're going to have a miserable life. Nothing good is going to come your way.
Right.
And so you get zero blessings when you leave.
Yeah.
All your blessings are from being a part of the AUB.
Exactly. So I wanted to get to this question too. Sorry, it started to jump. Do you think that the financial control and having large numbers of children is a key part why women stay fearing leaving as unaware what support is available outside of the AUB, or is it more commitment to belief? So do you think that they're staying because they're afraid of what's available if they leave, or do they stay because they truly believe it? If people were really honest with themselves, I think that it's the fear of what would happen. It's the fear of the unknown. They don't know what will happen to them if they leave. That's what I would say.
Well, fear of being turned over to the buffeting Satan. Zero knowledge that how they're going to take care of themselves
or their children. Yeah.
Or their children. Even if hey, there's this available, or somebody can help you here. Well, who are they? The only person that would help somebody like me, because I'm turning over to the buffeting of Satan, is somebody who is Satan himself, and he's going to lure me in with a little bit of money. There's so many belief systems that they're worried even sometimes about getting help and who they're getting help from.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
It's a scary, scary step to take. They really have to embrace that they are damned for time and all eternity by stepping out and away from the AUB.
Yep.
And sometimes it's worth it, because how could it be worse than the hell we're living? So.
Right. Okay. Well, we're gonna go for 10 more minutes. I said this a half an hour ago, but we love the conversation. Emily, my sister, says it's a mental prison that you are leaving, and it can be just as hard as, if not harder, than to escape physical escape. And I agree with that. You know, if my ex-husband would have ever struck me or hit me or had any level of physical abuse, I would have left way before I did. But there wasn't any of that. There was just mental and emotional and spiritual abuse that happened. And so it was harder for me to justify that, because it wasn't a wound that you could physically see. And so I justified it for years, and now I watch him try to do these mental gymnastics with my children, and it's hard to watch. Thank God my children have good senses of self, and so they don't fall for a lot of what he tries to do to them. But yeah, it's the physical bruises are easier to wrap your head around than the other ones are.
They heal quicker.
Yeah, they do.
Mental.
They heal way quicker.
54 years old, and I'm still trying to heal scars from belief system scars, damage that was done when I was a little tiny kid. So.
Yep. So thank you, Nila. Yeah. Nila, thank you. She's for the $5 super chat. She says, "You guys are great. Love hearing about your upbringing. My parents came from the USSR. Okay, wow. Cool. And their childhood in communist societies is so similar to you. Yeah. Wow. It felt like a communist society that we grew up in.
We did grow up in a communist society. It was a commune. It was you give
you more
everything.
So than me.
Yeah. Where I grew up, Pinesdale, you gave everything. Your work, your into the community. Your growing food. We lived in a communist society. The first 18 of my years of my life was a communist society that I lived in.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep, I totally agree. Let's see here. We care because we've watched most of. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's funny because so many of you guys have said that. You know, we love those kids. We grew up with those kids. They grew up with us. And it's funny because I was like, okay, well, whatever. How do you get that attached to someone else's kids on TV? And then as we've watched season 2, both of us are like, oh my gosh, Logan is such a sweetheart. Like, Logan really shines in this first couple of episodes of season 2. What were you going to say?
Well, just, I never lived polygamy as an adult. That's why I think I resonate with the children in
so much more
in this in the show, because that's how we grew up.
Right.
I understand what they're going through, the questions. He makes that statement, well, we're either going to get pushed off a cliff or jump.
Guess we're going to jump.
Guess we're going to jump. It's zero decision, zero input, and it's you are doing it this way. Do you have a choice? And that's the choice. You're going to the same place. You can either get pushed or jump. That's your choice. That's your. So, that's how we grew up.
Yeah,
so
and we've
didn't
really
get a choice.
We've loved watching these teenagers. I love to watch the banter of them on the couch with each other because, like I was saying earlier, you know, Maddie and McKelty were going back and forth about McKelty jumping on a horse and falling off a horse. And I love watching that banter because you can't tell that they're not siblings from the same parent, from the same mom. And so that's really how I feel like so many of my siblings are. You can't tell that we're not from the same mom. You wouldn't know unless you asked. And people say that all the time. Wait, you guys aren't from the same mom? And no, absolutely, you know. And so I love watching the Brown kids for that. So yes, I'm definitely starting to have an endearment towards the kids that as people have watched our videos and expressed that endearment, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, how would you really find that endearment for a kid you've never met? But I'm seeing why, because I'm definitely experiencing that endearment as we're watching it.
We grew up the same way they did.
Yeah, and they're just trying to make their way through it. Let's see. Oh, somebody says, hi, Mom and family hugs. Been worried about Mom since the channel got so quiet. Have a great day. Yeah, we did get a little quiet. Yep, my mom did have a little bout the last time she was up here. Well, 2 times ago that she was up here. And so we didn't go live. And I don't think she's feeling, I kept telling her, Mom, while you're up here, let's go live. But I kind of get the sense she's not quite up for it yet, physically and emotionally. So yeah, she's doing okay. She's doing okay. She's getting better, I think. But, you know, she's getting older. Sorry, Mom, you're getting up there. And so she definitely has us worried a lot. So she gets all of her kids in a worriedness. So, let's see. I was in a relationship with a narcissist for 10 years. It took me 10 years to heal from it. It takes time. It really does. It takes a lot of time to get over some of those relationships. Let's see. I'm aware of numerous good people pretending to be good Mormons for business purposes. Thoughts on this? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hear my thoughts on this or either one of our.
No, it is. It's a good.
So infuriating.
The Mormon Church has an amazing networking system. And so...
Why don't you believe him? He's the bishop. He wouldn't lie to you.
Well, yeah. And so, to be honest, I don't even know how to say it. Basically, if you go through the ritual of going to church, paying your tithing, go through the temple and kind of believe in their dogma and stuff, you can do stuff outside of it. I mean,
people don't care. You just lie.
Yeah, they don't. A lot of them don't. That was one of the biggest swing set communities in the state. They sell swing sets to each other all the time. So,
are you talking sexual or what? I don't know what swing set analogy. Gee, that
Oh.
sounds naughty.
well, swinging's okay if you're good Mormons. So.
Oh gosh, Cory's taking this down a dark path.
Well, it is. You have so many different things that you do, but as long as you look good on the outside, or you go get your temple,
Doesn't matter what you do.
It doesn't really, because you can. I don't know.
You can do and say whatever you want to. It doesn't
depends
matter
on
as
who you
long as
are.
you put your
Yeah.
suit and tie on and go to church on Sunday.
Yeah, and you talk to the bishop and just tell him what he wants to hear. Then you can go through the temple, and so yeah, and it's a great networking. And if you're known to be a Mormon, then other Mormons are going to do work with you.
And we're not saying this
So-
only happens in the Mormon. She didn't
Yeah.
say Mormons on there. She just said, oh,
She
no, she
did.
does say,
Only business
okay.
purposes.
We're not saying
They're
this
in
is
there
just
for business
Mormons. And
purposes.
this is not everyone's experience in the Mormon church. This is just some of our experience that some of the most evil or deceptive or worst business people that I've known have been in my ward. So, and not everyone has that experience, and not
Yeah.
every Mormon is that way. Just try to clear that up, because I don't want you guys coming after me in the comment section going, that's not how Mormons are, because I totally get it.
It's the same thing. It's the difference between, you've got the devout, those that really, so those would be the FLDS that listen to they dress a certain way, they do a certain thing, who really believe it. You got a group that really believes it. You got another group that wants to blend in with people. So that, yeah, they're going to go to the church, they're going to go to temple, but they'll have a beer with their buddy on the weekends. You know what I mean? Because they don't necessarily believe to the strictness of the doctrine, and they still pay their tithing, so they're still good, upstanding Mormons. It's all different things. It's part of your belief system. There's a large spectrum of belief systems within the LDS Church. There's a large spectrum within the polygamist church. You've got
And the
very conservative part of
yeah.
the polygamist group and the Mormon group, and you got the very liberal side of it that don't necessarily follow the word of wisdom to the T. So,
And what's sad about that whole situation is I feel like people are so stunned when they get screwed over financially by someone who they believed was a righteous man or a righteous person, and then they are getting screwed over, or they find out he's sexually abused their children in some way, or whatever it is. I find it interesting and tragic, actually, that because the way that I grew up, everyone was dishonest. Every man screwed every other man over. And so I just thought, if you come at me with, well, some proposition of some sort with religion tied to it, I will instantly shut that down because of some of the beliefs I have. You know, and it's funny because my ex-husband and I got in a pretty severe car accident when we were dating. And the person who hit us was another fellow polygamist person. I mean, just not even anywhere close to the church, just out and about. Well, we go to church on Sunday and we're trying to figure this out. We're talking to him and we're like, hey, you know, we got to fix this truck. His wife totaled our vehicle. And he says to me, well, too bad. I don't have insurance. I'm not paying you anything. And we're like, excuse me, why? Your wife caused this car accident. Your daughter's in the ICU now. Why are you not going to help pay for this? And so my ex-husband was like, no, you need to help pay for this. Like, what's going to happen? And he looks at him and he goes, I dare you to try to come after me. I'm a polygamous man with dozens of children, and you are a single, because we were engaged, but we weren't married. He's like, and you are a single man, and you can afford to fix this, so you figure it out. If you come after me, the people in this church will roast you. And that was his attitude. He didn't care if he was honest or integrable or fixed what he had broken. He only cared that it mattered what everyone thought. And so that's what I think is so sad when you get your Ruby Frankies and you get your, what's her name, Jody Hildebrands, and you get your Lori Daybells, and you get all of, it hurts my heart, honestly, when I see a bishop or somebody high up in the church ranking get called out on the news for abusing his congregation. And it happens a lot because people put so much faith in this particular person and the position that they hold. And unfortunately, in my experience, some of the worst people are religious people.
Well, and then
There's my little rant.
Yeah.
You up?
No, and then I know a lot of people. My grandmother was very faithful. My grandfather was very faithful.
Oh yeah, tons of
LDS Church.
really faithful people.
Followed all of the belief systems and everything, and so I would just find it curious that. But then there is the joking around that you always bring 2 Mormons when you're fishing so that they don't drink your beer. So they're checking each other out, making sure that
I'll make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. You just don't make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So we're going to wrap up here in just a second. Corey's sister Katie says, I watched Sister Wives from the beginning because the kids reminded me of how we grew up. I missed having my siblings around. It felt so nostalgic to me. It did for me too. Watching that episode last night, watching the kids banter on the couch, I had a little bit of nostalgia too. Like, oh, I kind of miss some of my siblings.
Well, and the fun part too is in this, I'll just bring this part up because we're probably going to do it but one of the grandmothers yells at all the kids and to get them to quiet down, because it was so loud with us growing up, and most of the kids just kind of stopped and looked. Oh, grandma's yelling type thing. And some of the kids that hadn't been around were terrified, and because they didn't grow up with that. And I was like, no, we grew up with that. I mean, when there was so much noise and all of a sudden one of the parents wanted attention, you got yelled at. You were just thankful that you weren't getting yelled at directly. So
Yep, very true.
So it's fun to watch the different families as they're integrating, and yeah, it's like seeing those grandmas and the grandma yelling at the kids. That's how we grew up. So where our kids probably would be like, what the crap is going on? So
yeah, I think my older kids, they've watched my mom yell a few times, but our younger kids haven't really seen that, and I think it would terrify our younger kids. They'd be like, oh, grandma's going crazy. But our older kids have experienced that. And when I say grandma, I'll let you guys decide if it's my mom or Corey's mom, or it could be both. So somebody says, I distinctly remember, I just want to read these last couple comments and we'll wrap up. I distinctly remember being in church as a kid and realizing that what hypocrites everyone is. Thank you. That is my biggest issue.
Yeah. And if you don't want to live the word of wisdom, that's awesome. Just
don't go to lie about it.
Well, that was the awesome part about we grew
up.
Don't
judge me when I don't want to.
No, we grew up with some people within the society, and we drank beer, but we were kind of, and they would show up and they would drink a beer, and we think everything's being cool. Everything's cool. This guy's drinking a beer too, and then you would get told on by the person. You're like, because they were doing the religious duty, and you're just like, oh my, you did it too. You were drinking, you were there at the party, you drank beer too, and you're going to tell all, does that make you more righteous than us? And those ones would, because they told on, moved up and through the ranks, and so they were super righteous. If you don't want to live whatever law, great. Just don't judge other people who are living the same way you are. So that's where the hypocrisy within these religions.
The hypocrisy
the
runs deep.
Yeah.
Well, it says that was the nail in the coffin, was discovering that when that everyone not baptized Christian was going to go to hell, and I was done. Yeah. I agree with you. And then Scott's Butterflies Linda says, like that in many religions, prim, improper on Sunday, sin Monday through Saturday. Isn't that the truth? And honestly, I really feel like organized religions have such levels of hypocrisy. So we've been watching this series. I said we were going to wrap up it. This series is so... We've been watching this series called How I Escaped My Cult. I think it's called How I Escaped... Yeah. How I Escaped My Cult. And it is incredible to watch how so many of the levels of hypocrisy that happen in organized religions, and the way that people believe so much of it too. It's just in the AUB, the hypocrisy runs deep, and it runs with almost every single leader that I know that's up there right now, and it's really hard. Somebody says, I've been meaning to watch How I Escaped My Cult. It's actually so good. Thank you so much, Just Scrapping. You guys can hit the thumbs up button. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up so we can get our season 2, episode 3. We're doing season 2, episode 2 and 3. We're going to record that now, and we're going to make sure our audio works so we don't have to record it twice. Yesterday was a long day, so we're going to get that done. But thank you guys so much. We are almost at our 10,000 followers, so we really appreciate all you guys sharing and liking our channel and sharing it with people that you know. We really do appreciate it. We are going to start doing lives a little bit more because the last 2 weeks have been a little heavy, and especially like with my mom and just a lot of stuff that's been going on, and then processing through some of my own stuff. Corey's away. Corey's just always a happy guy, and I'm just like, the world's falling apart. And so we really appreciate you guys all being here and supporting us. Watch for our lives. I will be extra careful to not schedule the live for 1 a.m. because YouTube dings me too if we miss that live. And so we obviously missed that live at 1 a.m. this morning. She's going to start using military time. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. So thank you guys so much. Watch for episode 2, or episode coming out. We'll post it tonight, and then we'll do our next one tomorrow. We're going to bust out season 2 this week. Yeah, we're going to watch all of season 2. So everyone have a great night. We appreciate it. Yep. Leave questions in the comments if you have some for us. Thanks so much. Thanks, guys.